Gather around, freaks. It's Wednesday night for some reason, and we're here and we're getting down to it because you know what time of the year it is? It's my birthday time of the year. Did you know it? It is. And we're talking wrestle movies and gather around, freaks. It's, hey, did you see this one?
Gather round, freaks, because it's that time of year again. The time of year that one of your hosts subjects you to something guaranteed to bend your mind, body, and soul. It is with great pleasure that we extend to you an invitation to delve into the realms of extreme sports and theatrical magnificence. Prepare yourselves for an experience like no other, as Hey, Did You See This One? And Jason R. Phillips proudly presents Wrestling with Mortality!
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Hey, Did You See? Oh man, you know what? I can't.
When did you put that on?
I can't do this. It's
like
too
a magic
hot.
trick.
It's too hot in this lucha mask. It's too hot. It's too hot in this luchador mask. Ugh.
If he's got a second one under the
The weekly roundtable discussion about movies, review, podcast thing, the world's longest hangout with your best buds. It's me, Jason R. Phillips, with my co-host, as always, Stephen Cube Waters.
That's me, Stephen Cube Waters.
This is episode 100 episode 132 of Hey, Did You See This One? Our guest this week is having technical issues. We're going to try to see if he can get on and get connected. But we're going to soldier on for now, I think.
And who is our guest, Jason?
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Please welcome to the show this week. First time guest, Sam Gladston. Sam, how you doing, buddy?
I'm here. I'm queer. Get used to it.
Sam is, of course, the host, one of the hosts of the Is It Camp podcast, which is perfect for the movie that we're doing this week, called Santos y Blue Demon versus Dracula El Hombre Lobo, also known as Santos and Blue Demon versus Dracula and Wolfman. This is episode 132, as I mentioned, and we last week we hit the bottom of the barrel. And this week we've climbed a few rungs up to the top of the ladder, brother. And this is so fucking ridiculous. Ugh.
It seems to really be restricting your ability to
Is there a
speak.
third mask?
Yeah,
No, he's not that committed.
How do wrestlers wrestle a whole match?
I mean, they probably have masks that fit their head. It seems like you really shoved your head inside that small mask.
I did. Also, it smelled terrible in there. I lent this to a wrestler. Me and Sam go way back. We were both trainees at Super Kicked Studios. I believe Sam is still training to this very day, many years later, getting jacked up like a jacked freak. And we used to do shows. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say you thought that Zac Efron looked pretty juicy.
Yeah, You're gonna be showing up in Baywatch too, and you're gonna play all the characters at the same time.
No.
But that mask, that second mask I had on, actually got used as the jobber mask when we would do like away shows. So a lot of boys have worn that mask over the years, and by golly, it smelled like it in there. If I seem a little caught off guard, it's just because Sam was having some technical issues, and I didn't want to use the best juice. But I'm here, I'm ready, and Steve doesn't like it when I say words like juice, of course.
That's true. There's other words I don't like when you say, but juice is fine.
Okay. So Steve, once again, Sam Gladston, can you give him a little round of applause, please?
Welcome to the show. Clapping happening now. There you go.
Sound effects.
Yeah, we have sound effects. I broke these headphones just now doing all that stupid nonsense. That's fucking fantastic. It's time for a new headset anyway. We do normally do like a weekly fan guessing game to sort of have people guess what the movie's going to be for that week. But last week and this week, I kind of forwent. Is that the word? I didn't do it. I forgoed it because the movies are so obscure that it's like, I don't want to feel the sense of, neglect and what's it called when you're pushed away by people?
Neglect.
Yeah. Okay.
Neglect works. Yeah.
I didn't want to feel that neglect.
Rejection.
Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. I didn't want to feel that sense of rejection putting up a poster for a movie that nobody's seen, and this falls into that realm.
It has two pretty recognizable characters on it, and it's not the main characters. It's Dracula and the Wolfman.
Wolfman. Now, I hope that we can talk about whether or not the licenses were procured for these films. But
these are both.
They're public domain guys.
They're both public domain. That's why you can just throw Dracula into anything. Basically, no one owns
Dracula. That's why. Like there was that episode of Buffy in season 6, the very first or second episode. Somebody was like, "We need Buffy to fight somebody like really menacing, like a Dracula type," and somebody in the writers' room was just like, Dracula? You can just use Dracula. Turns out you can just do that. And so that's why like Marvel has Dracula and DC has Dracula and Buffy. You can just you can have Dracula fight Steamboat Willie now. And it's
the Scooby-Doo gang. The Scooby-Doo gang has taken out Dracula
in a triple threat match with old Winnie the Pooh and soon a bunch
of. I'm pretty
of
sure Batman fought Dracula at one point in the cartoon world.
Yes, he did.
There are certain stipulations, however. The universal monsters are all copywritten, meaning that if you're going to do a Frankenstein, you're going to do a Wolfman, you do have to take certain steps to make sure that you're not replicating the look and style of those characters within those films. But this movie seems to have somehow towed the line because they really sort of went with that.
Wolfman looks pretty iconically Wolfman, and Dracula, they just put huge sideburns on him to circumvent that, I think.
Yeah. I noticed those giant sideburns too. It's like, whoa. Dracula's got drip at the moment.
He also had like a plaid lining to his cloak, which I was very into. I was like, oh, that's probably a pretty warm cloak.
We'll get to that.
Cozy.
We'll get to that. We still have some rigmarole to get to before we get to all that. Quickly, I'd like to do my regular call to action. If you, Sam, I'll have you plug your stuff at the end of the show, but I just want to tell everybody that right now for free on the internet, it's a little thing you've probably heard of. You might be on it right now. Who knows? Mm-hmm. You might be watching this later from a hard drive. Who knows? Probably not. But you can find all of our socials, all of our shows and all of our socials at Hey Did You See This One pretty much across the internet. We're on Spotify and YouTube primarily for our video on demand, audio on demand. We go live every Thursday, typically on Twitch at 8 p.m. Eastern. And also in the intro 10-minute bit, the music that's playing is White Bat Audio. He's a DMCA music producer who makes music for podcasts and YouTube videos and stuff. I give him a shout out because we do use him pretty much every week. But yeah, with that, why don't we talk about our brief history with the film Santo's Blue Demon versus Dracula? I'm fun. I'm loose. I'm overtired.
I didn't know how long you're gonna go with that, so I just pressed play. All right.
Yeah, no, that's good timing. Just like most shows around here, it's a time-honored tradition to give our guests the first opportunity to give their brief history. So, Sam, why don't you tell us about your long, illustrious, storied history with the film Santo's Blue Demon versus Dracula Wolf Man?
I watched it this week.
That's
I mean, I like we know of Santos and the Blue Demon like as a sort of cultural thing. It's not like in the zeitgeist, but because I'm a pop culture well of knowledge, it's just one of those things that I'm like, yes, two famous masked wrestlers in Mexico. They did a shit ton of movies and fought all kinds of people. I'm sure from drug lords to vampires and wolfmen, right?
And she-wolves and
Frankenstein
and cyclopses and yeah.
They have a lot of movies.
When we get to director talk, I want to discuss where in the Santo at the SSU, the Santo shared universe, this is in. But since last week and this week, it's been kind of short because we all just watched these movies pretty much the day of. Who's your favorite wrestler, Sam?
Of these two, or my wrestlers in general?
So I mentioned that, Austin Rock era is kind of my era, but, I like CM Punk is my guy. Steve likes, Rey Mysterio, Sting. Steve's not a huge wrestling fan, but he's coming around slowly over time. Who's your guy or gal or them?
My go-to person that I'm just like, I just love watching him work is Big Van Vader.
That's a good choice.
Vader's great.
I didn't know he was.
No. Well, I mean, the weird shared universe that wrestling is, technically the Muppets and Chucky and RoboCop are also part of wrestling.
All good characters.
All great characters. But Big Van Vader he's huge. He's no joke. He's like 400 pounds. He's like 6'4", 3 or 4, something stupid. And this guy was massive. And so he did big guy moves, right? You pick somebody up, you slam them around, do all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that Vader had going for him was that he also could do a moonsault. That's Big Van Vader.
That's Vader right there.
Just massive.
And
a moonsault.
Boy Meets World.
He was twice.
And he was Ethan Suplee's dad.
And he's like a former student of Mr. Feeney. Like Mr. Feeney comes out and he's like, Vader.
Yeah, it's Ethan Suplee's dad, like the bully's dad. And yeah, it's great.
Weird that I remember that.
But he's great because like he does all these big guy moves and you think like, okay, that's his whole shtick. He does big guy moves. But then you see him like climb up to the second rope and do a backflip. And you're just like, 400 pounds should not do that. Yeah. And there's also a very famous match with him and Stan Hansen in Japan, where 3 minutes into this 20-minute match, Stan Hansen hit him so hard in the face, his eyeball popped out of his socket. Yep. And you can actually watch him like force it back into his skull and just do the rest of the match.
Sure can.
Big Van, he's dope as fuck. And he never really caught on as big in the States because all kinds of other stuff happening. But he was, no joke, huge in Japan. Like literally huge in Japan. They worshipped this guy. And so I just love watching.
He held the WWF Championship briefly. And in WCW, I think he was like a legendary like United States champion or something. He held like a secondary belt for a long time. Here's a picture of him mid moonsault, just to give you a picture. That dude, Sam is correct, like over 400 pounds, just murdering Macho Man Randy Savage while Ric Flair looks on. All right. So cool. That's a really fucking good answer. Thank you. You kind of got Vader colors on right now. You got the same traps as him.
Yeah. It's kind of a side effect of just being big.
Yeah. Awesome. Steve, what's your brief history with old Blue Demon?
I watched it today. Yeah, I have absolutely no history with this, but I am familiar with this movie series tangentially through the likes of people like Guillermo del Toro and their works, which we can get into during director talk, I think, because I'm not going to have a lot to say about this director, so I'll talk about another one.
Yeah.
I should say, though, that story about Vader having his eyeball popped out, I do a VO for a wrestling channel, and I had to read all about that into a microphone, and I was like, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
And I didn't know it was the Boy Meets World Vader.
Last week we introduced you to Abdul the Butcher. This week you get that Vader story. So,
well, I mean, I already knew about it because I read it all. I had to read all of it into a microphone.
That's good wrestle things. Steve, I'm going to make you a wrestling fan from this month, whether you like it or not.
I don't know why you always think that I don't like wrestling. I just don't know everything about wrestling.
That just sounds like somebody who doesn't like wrestling.
Yeah, it really does.
All right.
For me, I also watched it this week. I didn't pull them out because they're kind of buried away, but I have 2 DVDs that this movie may be on. But I went to look for them to see if I could like watch this on DVD, and I'm pretty sure they don't have dubs. They're in Spanish, and the cellophane wrap was still on them. And I'm a weirdo for stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to unwrap that. It'll be worth something someday. And then also, I got it from the C&E. You know how you go to the C&E and you go to that room where there's just like endless rows of DVDs and CDs and stuff.
Yeah.
No. Have you ever been to the C&E?
I've been like once.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but even still, like, there's a room. There's a dark room, and it goes on for a while.
It kind of does. It's like a liminal space where you can buy DVDs like 75 for $4. Just liquidation sales. And I got them there and I was like, yeah, these are going to be dope. And then when this came around, this was kind of the reason I chose this movie. And I looked at them and I was like, I'll just see if the internet has it. And lo and behold, it's just on YouTube. So that's pretty much
surprisingly good quality too.
Yeah, it looked a little bit like the one that you downloaded, Steve, went down and Sam found it again. And the one that we watched looked like it had been touched up with AI or something. Did you notice that, Sam? In the background, sometimes their heads would be weird, like
too smooth.
No, but I mean that kind of stuff, they do it all the time, right? Like it's not touch with AI. They're trying to upscale it to HD from a very inferior quality. So the computer just goes like, I guess
so. Okay. Cool. We have good talk on the brief history front. Now let's do a little bit of director talk.
All right. Quiet on set. Are we rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of Sound. Speed. Action!
If ever there was a perfect time to use that exact sound clip,
it was last week.
Well, last week was a shitty mockumentary. This absolutely felt like some director was like, ugh, okay, whatever. I guess they're over a pit of spikes now, and the little girl has to walk across the pit of spikes. Just do it. But the director of this movie is Miguel M. Delgado, and he actually has 140 credits.
Yeah, and 75 of them are Santo movies. It's crazy.
So he's like the guy for these movies then.
I mean, I don't know if he has 75, but if the internet is to be believed, this is the 37th Santo movie, which precedes 16 others after it. So it's like not even the tail end or the beginning. It's like 2/3 of the way through.
Because there were references to other things in this movie. I felt like sometimes, like we've met to the mob boss. He's like, yeah, we've met before, and the mob boss is like, what? Because I was like, what?
Probably.
Well, yeah. There was also the part where he gave him like, oh, I've still got that radio watch you gave me. Good thing you have the radio watch. I was like, big deal. We've all got radio watches now.
He's a real James Bond, like I almost wanted to liken him to Batman, but he's more like James Bond than he is like Batman, I think. I think the reason my brain was going Batman is because it feels so campy,
Just
in the
looks like
vein
Batman.
of like the 60s Batman television show.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it is more like he's the man they go to when they have some sort of crazy thing happening. They're like, oh no, the monsters have returned. We need to get Santo. Santo, can you do this alone? No, I need my friend, the Blue Demon. Let's get him. He's the best of the best, other than me. But yeah,
So
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so like this guy just has a wealth of director credits. I don't think he goes over a 7 on any of these. Oh, okay. It's very low numbers for the IMDb stars. It seems all very like 60s and 70s like serials and movies and stuff that probably didn't make a lot of money, but it feels like Mexico in the 60s and 70s kind of had a Bollywood vibe where they were just churning stuff out that
there are years where he makes 4 to 5 movies in one year.
The reason I say that is because like the maybe TV wasn't really there yet at that time, but movies were. So you went to the theater to like watch your TV shows.
Filming 5 movies at the same time. They're like,
Yeah.
all right, we got this guy for a year. Let's make 4 movies in this year, and
Well,
we'll just film them all at the same time.
You got to think as well that like Santo and Blue Demon, they're legitimate wrestlers, right?
Yeah.
So people all over Mexico would have been like, I would love to see a Santo match, but it's all the way in Merida and I'm here in Mexico City and that's hours away. But there's a movie on at the theater, so I can go watch the next best thing.
He's
right?
fighting
So,
Frankenstein's daughter. Let's go.
why not?
But also
And
this
there's a drug dealer in it too. Drugs are bad.
this movie has that thing done much better than the kayfabe movie had, where there's just like kind of full matches, and there's different rules in lucha, and I think most matches are like best 2 to 3 falls, if I'm not mistaken. In lucha, like if you go to CMLL or AAA, you're going to get a lot more. I know the tag matches have like these insane rules that like you have to like be a huge super fan to really understand what's going on and get it. It's not like it's not like here in North America where it's like 1 fall to a finish. The rules are simple. Don't use a weapon, and 3 count is the end of the match, right? Lucha has a lot of really complex rules, and I thought that was interesting because in this movie we get a couple of tropes in the 3 matches. The first one is like, you know, a fall for each and then a tiebreaker. The second match is like Blue Demon just destroys them in 2, and then there's a tag team best of 3 or something at the end. We'll talk about that, but it's just interesting to see these matches, and they're short, they're palatable, and they're filmed well. You know, the Mexican style of wrestling is different, but it's fun to watch. Unlike last week when it was bullshit indie garbage just filmed with a loose plot jammed around it. Go watch our episode last week. We destroy that movie. I hope it's such a small director in film that I hope that they reach out to me and give me what for, because then I'll promote that.
I love getting shit on by people. Come shit on me.
Come shit on me. Anything for views, as Eric Bischoff would say. Controversy creates cat dweller.
So because I don't really have because I don't have too much experience with this director, because I was not born in Mexico in the 60s. I did immediately recognize like, oh, this is what Guillermo del Toro is referencing in his television show The Strain, which is based on a series of books that he wrote with his co-writer, whose name is escaping me at the moment. The Strain is a show about vampires, and they have this character called, I think his name is the Silver Angel, who is definitely inspired by Santo for sure. He wears a silver mask, but he's an actor who he was famous in the 60s and 70s as a luchador who was also in tons and tons of movies, and it kind of clips back to him fighting zombies and stuff and vampires and Dracula in these movies. And so it's quite obvious that, you know, Guillermo del Toro, born in Mexico, is a Mexican filmmaker, and he loves creepy, weird stuff. It is absolutely in no way a far cry to think that he loved this shit when he was a kid, you know, like watching Santos and the Blue Demon versus Dracula and the Wolf Man, and then writes like a hard, spooky adult fairy tale, utilizing those characters not by name but by influence, you know. And it's kind of fun. It's the best character in the show, in my opinion, and now I know where it came from.
I need to watch The Strain. I hear it's pretty good as somebody who likes that kind of stuff. And I didn't realize it was. I feel like I've been told repeatedly that it is Guillermo del Toro, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. And then I forget about it.
I think he directed the first episode and wrote
he's
a bunch
like
of
the
it. Yeah.
executive producer. And stuff.
But it probably has that, like his DNA all over it.
It's filmed in Toronto as well. So
yeah.
It's good until it's not, and then it sucks. But that's just kind of how a lot of TV shows that think they're going to get canceled every season are, because they're like, we have to end it, but also maybe have enough that we might come back again.
Yeah.
So it never really kind of feels completed, and it gets annoying after a while. I'm like, I don't care about any of this anymore.
Speaking of, this movie just feels like a moment in their career. The ending is fucking stupid. It just like they're just on one of their various 60s Batman adventures. It feels like there's a lot of just like directorially in this film, there's a lot of just people walking around. Did you guys notice that? I somehow have 2 pages of notes to go through. We're going to kind of hit the plot points, but there's a lot of just like people being like, oh, I'm going to go over here now, or I'm going to walk over here. And that felt like an interesting choice, because there's so much you could do with these characters, but it's almost like, oh, we're 30 of these in, and there's obviously going to be multiple sequels. We don't really have to put all of our chest into it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I also noticed that there were just these large chunks of the movie where Santos and Blue Demon weren't there. Like, it was very clearly like, and now let's check in on the women. And you have to watch the women do things. And they're all in peril, and they're trying to solve things. And then Santos and Blue Demon are just like, we're here to punch now.
And also some of the dialogue like was probably bad in Spanish, but then when you have somebody doing the translated version, it sounds like a Tommy Wiseau line, you know, like,
oh my god, yeah, there's so many good ones.
I will get on that right away.
My uncle needs to speak to you about something interesting and strange. Like, what?
Oh, hi there. How are you doing?
And
I'm just about to eat dinner. How do you do today? Oh, great. Fine. Good. And just before I move on to the body of the episode, I want to ask you guys, do you think the voice actors were Spanish, or do you think it was white people?
No, it was not white people.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out. I was trying to figure out the same thing. I was like,
is this racist?
No, I made sure that it wasn't. But that was one of the things that I was like, oh, it's nice that they actually got, you know, people who are Mexican to do it. It's probably easier as well to find actual actors that speak the language to aid in the translation.
Yeah. Was English Santo also Santo?
I don't know. I didn't dig that deep.
I don't. You hit bedrock pretty quick when you try to dig down on a.
There's no Wikipedia page. It just doesn't exist. But I mean, you can find the series, if you want to call it that, because there are enough of these movies that it could be a television series. I thought that James Bond had a lot of sequels, but dear God, that's
Santo.
They don't have individual pages because there's not. I guarantee you they filmed way too many of those for them to be able to differentiate between the movies when it came to doing research. It's like we don't know. They filmed all of them at the same time. You
may actually have to literally go over to like Spanish speaking Wikipedia.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Like I know there's been the odd time where I'm like, I know this thing exists, and then I like click over to French, and it's like, oh, there it is.
Oh, it's all there. Maybe we go to Canadian Wikipedia to find out about that kayfabe movie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There might be a literal library in Mexico City that is just the Library of Santo, where you can rent all these movies out, and there's books and text all about it. But
Santo on the front.
Yeah, exactly. And he's just like,
yeah. No,
body
it's like
slamming,
the
body slamming
with the two lions, except it's him and the Blue Demon posed like lions.
Actually, I like that more. I believe there was a wrestler in Lucha Underground called Blue Demon Jr. who had a crazy casket match, and I think that it might have been based off of. I don't think he's literally his son, but I think he had this like crazy casket match on one of the episodes of Lucha Underground. For those of you that don't know, Lucha Underground was this show that ran on what's the Spanish station that's kind of like NBC where they Telemundo, where it was like wrestling, like WWE style wrestling, or like an indie, but it had this like crazy story around it with like demons
there were
and wizards,
talismans they had to collect in order to put them together in order to challenge the person with the belt. That's the only way you could do it,
which is cool. And then notably it was produced by like Mark Burnett, who does all the reality shit like Survivor and that, so it had really high production value and it was awesome. And I do plan on going back and watching it one day. But the Blue Demon Jr. was like this crazy hardcore dude and like a heavy for like the main guy, Dario Cuerto, who's a character actor that you've definitely seen in things. But he's like the Vince McMahon, and he's always like scheming, and he brings out these like crazy like monster characters to fight the underdogs basically. And it had like lucha vibes.
There's also a bit Super Sentai and like, here is my monster of the week.
Exactly. And I remember this hardcore casket match where the casket just got obliterated. So anyway, that's just a little side note. So when we were going into this, I was like, wait, is this guy still wrestling? But it's almost impossible that is, because these dudes look like they're 40 or 50 in this movie. So anyway, why don't we just get right to the body of the episode, because let's stop edging the body.
The body of the episode.
The rules are simple. Let's talk about it. This is the bulk of the episode. A lot of people give us a lot of shit for going super long, but if you really want to just listen to the podcast, we're in it now. We're here. I usually go beat by beat through the story, but we feel free to tangent, meander, and all of that sort of stuff. What the fuck is that sound? Is the Undertaker coming through the...
Oh no, he's
accidentally hit
turning
the
into a
button
ghost.
on my fog machine.
Goodbye. What?
I didn't mean to hit that button.
That's crazy.
I thought it was like an in effect thing on your screen that you're just like, oh, going ghost mode.
I have a fog machine in my room.
He's a pervert. See?
Yeah.
He always calls me a twisted pervert, but this week, you, sir, are the twisted pervert. We need a soundbite for that. Twisted pervert of the week. It's usually me. Yeah, that's the twisted pervert sound.
Yeah. Is it like a celebration thing for you? Like, yeah, I did it. And she's just laying there going, what the fuck? It just happened.
No, it has lights on it. So I use the light for
that
lighting.
helps.
Yeah. I meant to hit the light button, but I hit the fog button instead.
Okay.
So here we are. That's the story. For people listening to this on audio only, let's move on.
Don't worry, nobody listens to this. So immediately a fantastic piano music over black and white credits. You know how I usually don't like that, but it was a pretty interesting little opening. It was all in Spanish, of course, but we immediately after that get to a wrestling match, which the announcers just sort of call as a 2 out of 3 match. It's pretty good. There's not much to really say about that, I would say. It's
shot nicely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like one hard cam looking at the match the whole time. Like there's no dynamic camera action or angles. You don't see it the ring from up high. It's literally just like, here is a ring.
But I will say, like, after watching last week's episode, the kayfabe, there was absolutely no artistry in that movie whatsoever. It was like they're like, oh, we can buy cameras for dirt cheap. Let's make a movie. Whereas this, there's some stage presentation.
It felt like it was a stage.
The colors. Well, that was meant to be the illusion, right? You have the sound of the crowd, but you've got this really nice calming blue background with lights coming up from the bottom, and it has a nice texture to it, but it doesn't draw attention away from the wrestlers, so your eye is focused on them. I think like the shot composition, though it was really simple, it was really nice, and I liked it, and I didn't feel like I wanted to skip it in the same way that I did with K-Fab, where I wanted to skip every single second of it. I was like, how much can I scrub through this before it starts affecting the story in my head? Other than that, I don't think there's much you can say about it.
I don't know. The choreography was fine. Wrestling was.
Well, the sound effects were hilarious, but
that's what I was going to mention. The Foley, the actual punch sound that goes was in this movie a bunch.
Well, all the sound effects in this movie are the same things that you can find stock for free now. Like they're all open source stuff that you can just get. I don't know if that's part of the original cut or the original dub, or if that's something that is more recent, but it's very funny when you know the sound effects as well as like anybody who's ever used sound effects in something. You're gonna be like, I know what the name of that one is. Oh, that's flop punch. That's grunt. Because then every once in a while you'll hear the real audio from the movie, like the part when he's coughing from the smoke bomb. The VO actor does some like, and it's really clear, and then it cuts to like the on stage like and it sounds completely different. There's a few moments like that, and they made me giggle, but yeah, the sound effects in this are goofy as heck.
Yeah, it's got that. I was like, oh, this is just like 60s Batman but in movie form. Like I haven't really seen the 60s Batman movie, but it just kind of looked like the show, right?
I mean, having just done an episode of my podcast on the 60s Batman a couple weeks ago, this had big 60s like even the fight scene with the mob later on in the film is like, okay, we're going to set the angle slightly high, point it down so we can see all the action happening at once.
This was missing Dutch angles, though. I don't think there were any that I noticed.
Well, the Joker wasn't there, so that's
right.
fine.
Yeah,
there was no one twisted enough to have a twisted camera angle, Jason.
Yeah, they're pretty straightforward. It's a Dracula and a Wolfman.
Of Dracula.
Yeah.
The thing that I kind of noticed that's interesting about the fight scenes in this, though, is for being guys who traditionally are in a choreographed wrestling setting and look good in their wrestling matches.
Not choreographed. They're just fighting people. What do you mean choreographed?
Look, I broke kayfabe for everybody last week when I revealed the truth. But in this, when they're fighting people just like in a street setting, like in a fight scene in a movie, the guys are throwing like real punches, and then they're throwing like axe handles, and the fight styles don't mesh that well, I thought. But that said, this opening sequence was great. Santo gets the first win. Blanco gets the second fall. And then we cut to some guy trying to resurrect the Dracula.
Oh, yeah. The Hunchback.
It's so cool because not only is he like trying to resurrect Dracula, but he's in this like cave that's got a wolf head and a bat head, and both of them flamethrowers built into them, so they're just going off in the background like, yeah.
And anytime there's a close-up of the flamethrower coming out of the mouth, there's a very fun musical sting that's like da-da-da-da-da. And then but it won't wait for the other flamethrower to finish before the next one starts, and the musical sting starts again, cutting off the other musical sting so they don't overlap. It's such funny editing that I'm like, it's got to be deliberate or it's accidental, but I don't know. But either way, it's funny. And if they did it on purpose, it's funny. And if they didn't, it's equally as funny.
I'm glad you brought that up, because like the music all throughout this movie just kind of comes and goes as it pleases almost.
Yeah. There's no scene where like the music fades into the next scene. It's always a hard cut where the music and everything cuts, and it's just like silence and someone's walking into a room, or there's people about to have a conversation.
Well, you got to think that the guy doing the music also had to do 4 more movies that year, so he's not going to just blow his load on this one.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we watched a dubbed version with a bad dub, so who knows what audio mixing was fucked up by the dubbing. It didn't feel like it was just an audio track blasted over the movie. It all kind of was mixed, but it almost to its detriment a lot of the time because of that.
I think it made it better.
Do you think, like I'm kind of on Steve's side about the movie is meant to be just like
Well,
it's a comedy, but played like almost like a Leslie Nielsen kind of level.
I mean, this
played straight, but
this type of thing in terms of audio cuts like that we're talking about deliberately for this is emulated to this day in movies like Kill Bill or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Quentin Tarantino borrows this type of editing technique because for comedic effect, but it also works as like a cool factor for his movies as well. So it's so strange to see it have a completely different impact depending on what you're trying to do, right? I'm trying to think of a good example from the last Tarantino movie, but he does it because I mean his style of filmmaking is very much like old school in the new school, right?
Well, I mean the whole Kill Bill. Every time she sees like Ren and that, it cuts right in, and then it
Theme from
cuts right off.
Ironside.
Yeah, and that's it, right? Like there's no overlap. Whatever's happening in the background, fuck that shit. I'm about to do an Ironside now.
And the shaky like zoom in on the person that the Kill Bill movies, actually all Tarantino movies do it.
Yeah,
I think those are from old westerns more so than this. And you know, if there was more artistry in the camera work in this, those zoom ins probably happen. There's probably like, even though there's like 70 of these, there's probably a few that are higher budget and with more like better direction and better like filmmaking. I feel like we hopped in on one that was like, oh, the weekly Santo movie's out, do you guys want to go? It's like, oh,
but like at what point do you think that is the case? Do you think it's before this or after this?
Well, the one before this 1969 one, he fought all of the monsters. It's called like Santo versus the monsters, and on the poster it's like all of them.
I started watching that one because, like we said, we couldn't find that, and I was like, wait a second, I'm pretty sure this is Dracula and Wolfman, not Dracula and Wolfman and Frankenstein and a Cyclops and a lady vampire.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing is like you can say, because it's the 37th movie, right, out of 70 or whatever. It seems to me that the budget would be higher maybe before this, not necessarily after or during, right? Because if you're on the 45th movie of the Santo series, you're not going to give it the same budget
I would think
for the second one if the first one did well. You know, like think about the Fast and the Furious movies. They don't really get better with quality. It kind of like flops.
Maybe. Yeah, I would think maybe like the first couple were pretty good, and then they got better, and then after a while, like Godzilla did the same thing. Most slashers, right? That first one's the experiment, and then it's like, oh, people want to see this, money, right? And quality goes up, and then after a while, it's like, yeah, we can just let it slide. Kids will come see this regardless, which is why there's 70.
We did the 5th.
There's only one way to find out. We have to watch every.
This is now a Santos podcast, Santos cast. But it's also like we just did the 5th iteration of Chucky, Freddy, Mike Myers, and Jason, and 3 of those movies were like unwatchable, garbage. And Chucky, since there was such a massive
Chucky's always good.
Chucky's amazing.
Like he's above and beyond. It is like Scream and Chucky are the 2 slasher franchises that are just like, oh, all these entries are great, except for number 3 with Chucky.
Chucky 3 is kind of garbage, but like Friday the 13th 4 and 5 were both just like, and goddamn Halloween seems to be getting worse by the entry. Freddy Krueger, I think that every time they come up with a really fantastic kill in the Freddy Krueger movies, it's good. That said, this movie has a lot of problems. But at least Eric, who we find out later, his name's just Eric the Hunchback, he yells, "Satan, make your will fulfilled," which I thought was great. And I was curious about why they buried Dracula and the Wolfman next to each other. It seems like because
they're best friends,
best buds.
No, this is erasure of queer romance, guys. Just because the 2 guys were in a grave together, they're not good friends. They could have been lovers too.
No, they were just roommates. According to historians.
Personally, I ship Dracula and Rufus. What was his name? Rufus Rex.
Oh my! Wait until when we talk about that. I've got like so much to say about that. I love
Awesome.
that shit.
So we move over to a family for a minute just to introduce them really quickly. We don't really know who they are yet. They live in a mansion. Then after all that, it cuts back to the third fall of the best three of falls match. This has all happened within probably 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
We got to get that expository dialogue out of the way. We got to learn about the book of, what was it? Kabbalah, which I've heard about in other things, but I believe it's real. I think it has to do with like Jewish mysticism, or it might actually be a book in like actual Jewish religion. But every time I've heard it, it's in a demon movie. So I'm like, this seems maybe racist. Yeah. The only time, the one that pops out in my mind is like a movie that I saw around when The Dark Knight came out, and Gary Oldman and Idris Elba were in it. They both play priests, and I believe Idris Elba gets possessed by a demon, and Gary Oldman keeps talking about the book of Kabbalah. I remember because I kept doing like a "why so Kabbalah" as like a Joker voice, like a weirdo in the theater. It was a bad movie. Anyway.
Was that when you were seeing like every single movie that was coming out? Was that during that era?
It was close to it, yeah.
Yeah. So Santo, apparently the commentators mentioned that he's undefeated all time, which is especially great considering it's revealed now by Steve that this is the 30th one or whatever, 37th one. So he's never taken an L. He's basically the modern day, the old day Super Cena. He's John Cena. He's Mexican John Cena is my point. Can't lose. Or Roman Reigns for that matter. And I wrote Super Cena, more like Super Santo. And then I left the podcast forever. Bye.
Oh. You said that to yourself?
Yeah.
Like while you're watching it?
Yes.
Bye.
As you made the John Cena connection, you're like,
I'm fired.
Like,
thank you.
I'm fired. But here's the thing that I wondered. Is Santo a good guy or a bad guy? Because in this third fall, the commentators like everybody loves him. He's like undefeated champ. He's the best in the world. He does, however, keep eye poking and dick punching and face kneeing, which all illegal, hyper illegal. But the ref can't stop him because he's too powerful. So
power,
might makes right. He could just become president of Earth, but he chooses not to because he's benevolent.
A real Lex Luthor.
Yeah, all the Lexes.
Crossover humor for the day. Yeah,
a little bit of extra wrestling reference there. That's a good answer, guys. He does use a lot of heel tactics, though, and then he wins with a reverse armbar, which is like a move you don't see that often. It feels like a indie super show move to just twist a guy onto his back and hook his arms. That's funny. This is when I saw the faces melt in the background. We covered that. Also, I wrote, also, this seems to be a sequel, but make up a word that encapsulates the amount of movies this is. You got your sequel,
it's a saga,
you got your prequel,
is what it is.
You got your saga.
Yeah.
You fought all the monsters in 69.
Nice.
Okay. So Professor
fought all the monsters and then had to fight two of them again. But is this a sequel in the sense that like those are the same monsters from that movie?
No, because I think these are a different Dracula and Wolfman, because they're talking about how the professor's great-great-grandfather was the one who sealed them away for 1,000 years, whatever amount of years. And so they're like, yes, he did do that thing.
Yeah, and they need his blood or whatever to resurrect them. The blood of the last Christovsky or whatever. What's his last name?
Crystallini or something like that. I remember them pronouncing Crystal, and I was like, like the wine.
Yum.
The movie before this is actually Santo versus Frankenstein's daughter.
Yeah, I said that earlier. I was. It sounded like I was making a joke, but I was just reading the title.
And just going by the IMDb of this director, that Santo versus the Monsters one he didn't even direct that.
Seems like a
Maybe
missed
that's why.
opportunity that Batman, like the Adam West Batman, didn't at some point cross over with this guy. Maybe he did. Maybe there's an episode of Batman where Santo shows up.
No,
And
I
he's like,
checked
hello.
that.
He's like, hola, Batman. I'm here to
He
help.
crossed over with Green Hornet. So Kato,
okay.
Bruce Lee was in 2 episodes of the Batman show.
Well, the Green Hornet was a little bit more inclusive than Batman.
Oh, you know what? I think this.
Maybe not in the best way, but it was.
I was wrong. The Santo. No, it was previous, and he fights. He fights Vampire and El Hombre Lobo before this.
You're trying to make any sense out of this.
I'm trying.
A lost cause.
Don't. This. It's like how Godzilla's the bad guy in the first 2 Godzilla movies, and then afterwards he's
Then
a
he
friend to
becomes
the boys and girls.
And sometimes he's an American Godzilla, and sometimes he's a Japanese Godzilla.
Imagine
So-
No, that's a different Godzilla.
Imagine you had absolutely no information on the Marvel universe, and then somebody showed you Infinity War, and you tried to make sense of it.
Let me bring up the MCU with regards to this, because it's like that is going to be somebody's going to be trying to pick that apart, and with movies missing, like, oh, they lost Ant-Man 2.
Yeah, after World War III, people are going to be like, "What the heck is this? Who's this guy?" And they'll be referring to Ant-Man or the Wasp, I assume.
Yeah, Ant-Man 2 is like going to be a forgotten movie. I'm calling it now. And during the Water Wars, some water gets on Ant-Man 2 computer. Original cut. I don't know.
In the water world, in the water wars.
Rays.
Yeah.
No.
It sounds like when you said in the water wars, some water gets on the Ant-Man 2 computer. Those wars are fought with super soakers, like for running around with water guns.
It's ironic because they are still fighting for the water, but they use water to fight. They have super soakers, military grade super soakers,
super duper soakers,
super duper soakers.
It's salt water. We can't drink that. That's garbage.
That's true. And it burns when it gets in your eyes.
Yeah, because it's also mixed with piss and bleach.
Ammonia. I see you two enjoy spraying people with ammonia.
Yeah. It's like, actually, wouldn't those two things almost create like a
mustard gas? Mustard gas. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Wow.
World War I again.
Yeah. World War III is going to be
World War P.
Listen, the World War franchise is exploitable IP, right? We got to keep the first 2 were so profitable. It's been such a while since we did World War. We got to do 3, and then Tokyo.
They tried again with Vietnam. They tried again with Gulf War, but nothing really stuck.
Those were spin-offs.
Almost Iraq War. Almost. We were this close, but now.
But we did get a second Iraq War.
That's true. But now we're getting 2 simultaneous wars that might erupt into a World War III if Iran keeps attacking.
Everybody download a bunch of 1940s and 50s music to your phones, so when the bombs go off, you can all be like, "So bongo bongo bongo, I don't want to leave the Congo, no.
So would these 2 concurrent wars be like Dante's Peak and Volcano coming out at the same time?
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if this movie had a sister movie that was also a Santo movie in that same vein.
Yeah, they came out on the same weekend.
Yeah.
Like Batman and UHF all over again.
How is Santo fighting Dracula in this movie and the mob in the other one?
Yeah. Or he's fighting Dracula in both somehow, just different stories.
Just different
Yeah,
stories.
the mob have hired Dracula in the other one.
Yeah. Blah!
Blah. But we're introduced to in the Professor Cristaldi. He's kind of talking about how Cristaldi is needed to resurrect these guys, mostly Dracula. The Wolfman thing doesn't really make a lot of sense. We'll talk when we get to it. And did you notice when he walks up to like touch all the like MacGuffins, like the dagger and all the little things, he keeps looking right into the camera. Like he keeps just like saying his lines and then like glancing into the camera.
Mm-hmm.
He's old. This is the first time he's seen one.
Yeah, he's a stage actor.
Oh, Vader again.
His nipples are staring right in the camera.
Listen, you get that big, you try finding a shirt that hides your nipples.
Your nipples are out right now, aren't they, Sam?
Oh, hold on a second. Let's see. A little bit.
This got real sexy real quick. Somebody said in this movie that the magic chronology is so confusing, and we're like 25 minutes into this thing, if that, and I literally was like, ain't that the truth? Because the way they're explaining it makes no sense. And then Crisaldi meets with some gangsters, and then he warns I thought Eric was Crisaldi because he was like, I bring you back from the dead. Eric meets with some gangsters, warns them of his employers. Obviously, this movie does this weird thing where it takes way too long for everybody to go, oh, it's Dracula and Wolfman. Even Santo for most of the movie is like, there's a force coming, and then Blue Demon's like, yeah, it might be supernatural, and he's like, I don't know. It's weird that they bother with that sort of conceit, because it's this Grisaldi guy's talking about ancient relics in the first 10 minutes of the movie.
And also the movie's title.
Yeah.
They can't see the title. They're in the movie.
They're in the movie.
But these ancient relics, like, only one of them gets used, right? It's the dagger. The rest of them are just, it's like, yes, and I have this, like, big brown lump and it's magic. And they're like, forget that shit.
Yeah, we only care about this one. Yeah.
Also, this necklace and it's magic. And
fuck that one too. Yeah.
This dagger is a homing dagger for evil,
and they just give it to the little girl. They're like, "Here you go off, play, enjoy."
Exactly. It acts as like the crucifix of the movie. There's no garlic, there's no crucifix, there's no holy water. There's just this dagger that Dracula's like, "Oh, I can't go near it."
There's also the goofy thing of like when you get an adult voice actor to voice a child, like it always just sounds goofy. There's no way you can make a serious movie or even a video game or anything. Like if it's a comedic performance, it's fine because it comes off, like Bart Simpson or the Rugrats and stuff like that. It's like, okay, yeah you're gonna need to get an adult woman to do the voice of this child, and it's funny, so it's fine. But as soon as you put an adult doing a voice of a child in something that's meant to be serious, it just is.
I'm playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth right now, and they do that. It's
full of it, yeah.
And every single kid in the movie sounds exactly like Rosalita. Every single,
I'm definitely a child.
Yeah. I'm definitely a child. It's so fucking annoying, and it's like mommy, like all the time.
That's like the girl in this movie that we just watched, where she's.
I have to go home and do my taxes. I mean, play.
Play with my dolly.
I gotta play with my dolly.
I will say though that when that little girl gets shoved over later in the movie, I was like, holy shit, she shoved her down for real.
Yeah, fuck that kid.
This next bit is one of the first instances of the movie where the professor just kind of walks around. I think it's meant to be sort of like a foreboding foreshadow, but he kind of like goes and like takes off his jacket and gets ready for bed and gets the dagger.
It's a real like Mr. Rogers feeling to it, because it's like I'm just putting on my bedtime jacket.
Yeah. To take off my outside cardigan and put on my inside cardigan.
Because in the 60s and 70s, the rules were different.
Yeah, the rules
until
were
JFK killed the hat industry.
You wear your shoes outside, but then you have your indoor shoes that you wear inside. You need arch support.
As Sam had mentioned, though, he does know what's coming because he read the book. Everybody else was like, I don't know what you're saying. And he's like, I understand everything. And he puts the dagger on her like nightstand. And then Eric shows up and fucking chloroforms him out of nowhere. Just bang, which I thought was dumb. But funny. Then we're just in the crypt and we have... They string Crisaldi. Eric strings Crisaldi up by his feet.
There's something weird going on with Eric's face too.
He's got like a weird giant wound,
but also the makeup. There's something strange. Like I don't think He's evil.
Oh no,
Yeah.
his face tan does not
Yeah.
match the rest of his body. I
It
think
just
the
looks very
idea is
smooth.
I think the idea is that he's supposed to be like a man, like a very low class person. Like, oh look, he probably works with his hands. He's probably
Right.
outside most of the day.
Yeah.
Disgusting. Unlike our beautifully skinned heroes who definitely do not have any skin cancer. This guy has skin cancer.
Yeah, that's not an actual hunch. That's just one giant skin cancer cell.
Yeah, I did notice that through it. Also, his beard is either he can't grow a beard and spent 15 years growing what he had, or they just stapled hair to his face.
Why did you
Or
point at
glued it.
yourself when you talked about that?
I'm a bearded.
Because I've been growing this beard for 15 years.
I'm stapling new ones on.
I just go out into the neighborhood. I collect the local cats and I
Oh
staple
no,
their
this
hair to my face.
no.
I don't like it.
Well, you guys don't like to shave pussy?
Oh my god.
No, Jesus Christ! What have I said?
Remember when you said juice earlier and I said juice is fine? You just said something that I don't like. Don't say that again.
I'm gay, okay? I don't know what you're talking about.
Listen, everybody's gay in the dark. What?
I'm just gonna update the gay council on that. That's a
Yeah.
Hey, did you guys know this interesting fact?
Guys,
Everything's
guess what?
gay. That's funny. Yeah, but never trust a heinous monster from hell, which is good advice.
Mhm.
And then he's like, when he's about to resurrect Dracula, he's like, I want his gold, which was funny. He hangs Grisaldi upside down, cuts his neck, pours the blood onto the corpses.
It's pretty gruesome. Like
Yeah.
the blood effect that they're using in this is it's not that 70s like, oh, we just poured red paint all over someone and said, that's close enough. Like this was like the right kind of consistency, the right kind of color, and there was tons of it. I was like, oh,
It was real blood.
Yeah, yeah, he actually died.
It was cheaper to use real blood. It was cheaper to kill him than it was to source.
No,
Well, they don't have to pay him.
the effects guys hadn't worked it out. It took them 44 movies before they really figured out how to make fake blood. So they were just using real blood for the first 37 movies.
That's really funny. Or like this, they're trying out the new technology in this one. It just looks too real. I have a question for you guys that didn't really make sense to me. This Grisaldi's like he can swing back and forth, and he kind of pulls him over to Dracula and like empties him out a little bit on Dracula, and then Grisaldi kind of swings away, and then Wolfman comes alive. Did I miss something, or did he take him over and do the same thing to Wolfman?
I guess.
Is that what it is? Like it's just sort of like maybe they
I
forgot.
thought that it was like Dracula controls the Wolfman somehow, so Dracula coming back also brought back the Wolfman. But I
Oh, they are soulmates. How
They are
sweet.
soulmates. It is gay erasure to not say that.
yeah,
They
just
were
like,
partners.
just like Abraham Lincoln.
Just like
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
And also, canonically, typically Draculas and Wolfmen are at each other's necks. Look at Underworld.
I mean,
Look at what we do in the shadows, and that's it.
yeah, those are the
Van
two
Helsing.
that go
Van
off.
Helsing.
Oh, and Van Helsing.
Twilight.
Oh, and
Twilight.
Twilight. It is pretty
Uh-huh.
like to see these two team up. I guess
That's
it's
just because
been
it's a stupid basic bitch idea to be like, oh, it's a vampire. What do we have them fight? A werewolf.
yeah,
It's
Yeah.
just
Been-
easy.
50 years.
Let's
50
have
years ago.
let's have vampires fight somebody like a real worthy adversary, like orphans or
Godzilla.
the homeless, like Godzilla.
Yeah.
How many Draculas would it take to beat a Godzilla?
Not the homelessness. The vampires
Homeless
are trying to end homelessness.
Miss.
Yeah.
And this rich family
They
is like,
have all
fuck
that money.
you. We have so
Yeah.
many MacGuffins, it's going to make your head spin.
That's real generational wealth.
Better super
Vampirism.
kick you into a fucking pit of daggers.
I got Dracula money.
They call me the Dracula man, and I got a Dracula plan to trickle down economics. It's going to
Oh
ruin the
no,
world.
Dracula.
Dracula Reagan.
Yeah.
Draculanomics.
Dracula.
Dra-
Dracunomics.
Dracula Nancy Reagan is a real throat goat.
She really. Let me tell you something about Dracula Nancy Reagan. She blew everybody on the set of Blue Lagoon.
What?
I don't know.
Have you
That's
seen
right.
Blue Lagoon?
Look,
Brooke Shields was in that. You leave her
yeah,
name
and
out
Brooke
of your
Shields
mouth.
started on the set of Blue Lagoon, so I think I know what I'm talking about. We're off the rails this week, ladies and gentlemen. We're figuring out our dynamic with our newest best guests, Sam Gladston. It's good. It's fun and it's funny to talk silly about this thing.
It's a silly movie. I wasn't expecting yes. What are the deep moral ramifications of a Wolfman and a Dracula coming together as one team? What does it mean in our current society?
It felt like I was watching a Saturday morning cartoon live action. It felt a lot like an anime in a lot of ways because of the bad vocast. I will just take this moment though, Sam, to give for me, you'll be able to plug your podcast at the end, but the reason I chose this movie is because you do a podcast called As a Camp, where every week you try to figure out if a movie's camp or not, I think. And and I want to ask you right now, is this movie camp?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, this is camp. But it's what we call unintentional camp. So film theorist Susan Sontag did a whole essay just on camp. Like, what is it? What does it mean? Where does it come from? How do we create it? And so generally there are two forms of camp. There's intentional camp and unintentional camp. This is unintentional camp. Like, clearly, like, it's being made because it gets butts and seats, and Santos and Blue Demon are huge stars, right? Like, fuck, like, we would churn out 20 million Captain America and 4 movies if we could. But we can't because of money. But because this is number 36 of however fucking many, like, there's diminishing returns and they're pumping out 4 or 5 a year and so on and so forth. So the quality clearly has taken a massive hit in terms of everything. And that, like, the cheapness isn't offensively cheap. There's nothing in this that you're just like, oh fuck me, this is awful. No, you're like, this is bad, but I'm vibing with it. So, this kind of trashy, a little bit very over the top, ridiculous. Oftentimes camp is also like a very queer thing. And I mean, we can say that Santos and Blue Demon, maybe there's something going on between them because they seem to have some kind of history. Who knows? There's Dracula going to town on Wolfman's butt. Who knows? Rufus Rex.
Rufus Rex, the sexiest man alive, but also a complete sociopath.
He's
Rufus Rex ass is what he yells.
I'm going to seduce her evilly.
Well, thank you for that. That was insightful. I didn't realize there were like papers written on what camp is, because I just was like, Hairspray is camp. You know what I mean? Like Grease is camp. Musicals at large are camp. And they make movies that try to capture camp. And the idea of unintentional camp actually is very exciting to me, because there are a lot of really like movies that had a lot of earnest intention that just play real bad.
So
like this Joker movie coming up is gonna
next one.
It's gonna try to be it's gonna have like manufactured camp that might not play in its favor. But I will say I want to see it in IMAX, because when I saw Dune 2 in IMAX, the way that the sound happens, I walked out of there and I was like, I want to see a sing-along musical in IMAX because of how good the sound is in an IMAX. So I'm looking forward to it for the music, but I'm worried that Joker Folie à Deux might have that.
I haven't even seen Joker. I'm excited to see Joker 2, because I'm just like, oh my god, this trailer, it's a musical. Hell yeah, you're talking to me now. I had no interest in sociopath Joaquin Phoenix.
The first Joker's not great. It's kind of
I'm not
disappointing.
going to watch it. I don't want to know what's happened in the first movie. I'm going into this one blind.
Yeah, Joker's kind of an idea in that first movie. Lady Gaga's in the second, and I'm on board. And Joaquin Phoenix, kind of hit or miss, usually good.
That hair-lipped weirdo.
Yeah, he likes to try to be a method actor, but only goes like 75% of the way or something. Like I can't really put my finger on what his issue is, but like he's got some. He's kind of like a Nick Cage, a little bit. Kind of.
Yeah, I think he's hit or miss most of the time.
Yeah,
I like him as a supporting actor in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Jared Leto.
You like Jared Leto like works for you as like a supporting guy, not as like a
never a lead, always support.
Yeah.
Like House of Gucci. Have you seen House of Gucci?
I haven't watched that yet, but I do want to see it. Yeah.
Much fun. And Jared Leto is tolerable.
Yeah. Look, honestly, in the Suicide Squad, it's such a piece of shit that seeing the weird Joker a couple times was kind of like, that's a really interesting take on this. Zack Snyder? No,
it was what's his name?
Anderson?
No. He's
was it Paul W. Sanderson or
no? It wasn't
no. For Suicide Squad, not the Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad.
It was the guy who directed
David
Ayer. That's it.
Not David Ayer. David Ayer.
David Ayer.
David Ayer. Yeah, because he's come out and been like, if you guys would have seen the cut I wanted to make.
Well, yeah, most David Ayer movies are pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, he didn't have a fair shake in that movie because his version was meddled with because of Guardians.
Studio.
Yeah.
Studio interference came in and said, make Guardians of the Galaxy for us. And he's like, I guess put more music drops in this. He's like, I
make it colorful. Make Harley Quinn put on her little top while the Rolling Stones play.
She's sexy.
She's sexy. All the incels will love it. Ironically, they hated it because incels hate women. Anyway, efficient transition from skeleton to Dracula, which I thought was, these transitions in this movie are so funny. Like when the Wolfman gets stabbed with the pike and then he just falls to the ground and then it goes boop and he's just some foam. I thought that was good. This one is good too. And good, by good I mean terrible, but funny that they were like, this is fine, passable.
This is the unintentional camp aspect of it, right? Where they're just like, good enough.
This is when I learned that Eric is the Hunchback's name. Now, Eric is supposed to be like kind of like like Dr. Frankenstein's Hunchback. Like, is that sort of his
I thought
character?
He was more of like a Renfield than an Igor.
Okay. That's actually a good point. Like a familiar, like a super familiar.
I thought that he was just the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Just,
could be that too. Why not?
Why not? No one refers to Igor as a hunchback. He has a hunchback, but his name's not Igor Hunchback.
Like it's like how the Phantom of the Opera is a universal monster as well, and you're like, really? Yeah. Like the musical guy?
Yeah,
but he is.
He's in there. He's part of the rogues gallery of.
He had like 4 or 5 movies.
I guess. Yeah.
You got the Creature, the Black Lagoon. You got the Mummy. You got Frankenstein. You got Bride of Frankenstein. You got
Invisible Man.
David Ayer also directed that Bright movie, but that was a piece of shit as well.
Oh, that was garbage. Yeah.
Maybe he's not as good as I thought.
He's got some. I know he's got.
Made Fury, which is like pretty well respected. Yeah. I don't really. He's kind of a middle of the road kind of guy. I think he's also a writer on a ton of stuff too.
Isn't Fury the one that turned Shia LaBeouf insane?
I think he was already. I think that's why he hired him.
He was already insane.
He was already fucking nuts.
Knocked his own tooth out for the role.
Yeah,
you're not that guy, pal.
They said, I don't know if this is going to work. Like during the audition, and then he smashed his mouth on the doorknob on purpose. Like, how about now? And they're like, okay, you got the job.
Okay,
just
fine.
stop
Jesus
bleeding
Christ.
on the carpet.
Aren't you the guy from Holes and Transformers?
I'll show you a hole, and then he pulls his pants down.
Well, I was gonna say, I think the movie that really was the transition was when he did the Sex Maniac movies. What are they called? What's it called?
Nymphomaniac.
Nymphomaniac, yeah.
Was
Sex
he in
Maniac.
those?
Yeah, he's in the first one.
I mean, I think the real transformation was years and years and years
Oh,
of
yeah, he
childhood
was.
abuse that
Yeah.
eventually
That-
manifested into him snapping a bit.
That'll get
You
you.
mean
Look at
The
Danny
Disney
Bonaducci.
system? What?
Yeah. I do really want to see that documentary about the Nickelodeon system with that foot pervert.
Oh
saw
yeah. Ugh.
I watched it.
You watched it?
Yep, I did.
And now
And
you
do
feel
you have a
horribly
foot fetish
uncomfortable
now?
No, I don't. If you want to feel horribly uncomfortable for 4 or 5 episodes that are like an hour long each, then go for it.
No,
If
I'm okay,
not,
thank you.
you can probably just not watch it and just watch the little TikToks that you'll see every once in a while and be like, ugh. You'll get the gist from those. Yeah.
That was my lens. I saw the real bad stuff from it, and I was like, ugh. He was like blatant, like anyway, whatever. The
weird thing about that documentary is that there was another documentary that came out years ago that is all of the same information, but it just wasn't widely released the way that this one is. So I'm like, this one was made almost maybe more than 10 years ago and is like not that well known. But then the one that came out recently, everybody's talking about it. I'm like, what about the other one? I think the other one was called like An Open Secret or something. And it was all about Bryan Singer, but also that Peck guy, the guy who was like the main monster, the foot fetish guy, Dan Snyder, in that documentary. Yeah, he's a creep, but like he didn't really do anything other than just be like inappropriate. Whereas this Peck guy was like legitimately a predator and like was moving around from studio to studio, like molesting people and like doing horrible things to people. So it's like, after watching it, I was like, why is everyone still talking about this Schneider guy when he's been, you know, dealt with? This other guy is out of prison and still working, and it's like, man, maybe deal with this guy, the monster.
Don't
Anyway.
be ridiculous, Harvey
Speaking of
Weinstein.
monsters,
Speaking of monsters,
oh my god!
Yeah.
Sometimes this show gets like real serious, real quick, and let's lighten the mood. Can you play the fart sound, please, Steve?
Oh, yeah. Palate cleanser.
Have like, oh yeah, so Dracula and werewolf, they're back. I noted that the werewolf makeup was like kind of decent, and they used the same makeup on like a bunch of them, kind of decent. Anyway,
Well, it's just a mask. It's not. It's like a mask. It's not makeup.
it's like a balaclava, right? It's
yeah,
got
but I thought it could have been a
the
lot.
eyes.
I thought it would have been a lot worse.
Right.
Oh,
No.
yeah, I've definitely seen movies where it's just like we stuck a patch of fur on this side,
Yeah.
and this side.
We shaved
He's a
the cat,
werewolf
we
now.
just stapled hair all over the guy's face. But the thing that I thought was really funny here is like 1 second later, they just cut to Dracula and werewolf in full on like crime mode, and they just have a lineup of people they're going to turn like factory style. I thought that was great. That was very 60s Batman to just like cut to that. And then I noted,
I love that the werewolf is dressed like Luke Cage.
yeah, I
Like,
noticed that.
bright yellow shirt, black leather pants. You're like, this is
got
a sexy
very,
modern werewolf.
Weight belt also.
But
It got very confusing at the end of the movie because Santo and the Wolfman were both wearing a bright yellow shirt, and it kept cutting between 2 fight scenes with a man in a bright yellow shirt. And I was like, what? Oh, my brain, I can't handle this. I
did notice that as well.
I need them to wear different colors. Give one of them a different shirt, please.
Blue Demon though is dressed immaculately through this whole thing.
Yeah.
He's got a purple blazer on at one point that I was like, I kind of like want that.
like the whole time I was like, anytime it was just Santos on screen, I'm like, no. Go away, Santos. I want to see Blue Demon again. Because he's
Blue Demon
for
should
some
have been a
reason I
bigger
was just
star.
like, he's cool.
That's fantastic. Fuck, man. This is one of those movies that's like more fun to talk about than watch. I'll say we encounter that a lot on this show. I'm sure you do as well, Sam.
Yes.
Where you sit through the movie like almost like homework, and you're almost dread doing the episode because you're like, what are we gonna pull from this? But I think like this is one of those ones where it's just kind of fun to like think about it and then talk with your pals about.
Yeah,
And
I had to watch Grumpy Cat's Worst Christmas Ever for the pod. Yeah, this is much easier to talk about than
what was the verdict on that one?
oh, it was just bad. It's like
No, but
it's like
Was it camp?
It wasn't camp.
No, it wasn't. It's crass commercialism dialed up to 20. Like
So
the
it was
amount
cancer.
the amount of times that the movie actively stops to sell you Grumpy Cat merch.
Oh,
And they play it off as like, isn't this a funny joke? Go to www.grumpycatmerch.com to buy Grumpy Cat merch. We have coasters and stuff. Wouldn't that be funny if it was a real commercial? Buy our stuff.
Grumpy Cat gone too soon. Almost like they chose a geriatric cat to be the face of Grumpy Cat. Yeah, Grumpy Cat like was a meme and then died 2 years later. It was crazy.
Yeah. We talk about it on that episode. And I was like, what the fuck? I thought Grumpy Cat was bigger, longer, but nope.
No,
in and out.
Meme gone. And it's funny to think about, like it's kind of a great representation of the life cycle of memes. And Grumpy Cat's old meme, like old world meme. But the only reason I know so much about Grumpy Cat is I had a friend like this. Grumpy Cat was a meme when I lived in Halifax still, and I had a friend who like loved Grumpy Cat. Oh, the cat's frowning. Isn't that so funny? And I was like, cat's grumpy. On to the next. Where's Tezondan Chocolate Rain at? No, that's a meme. Anyway, the news hit. My friend was sad, and I was like,
were they grumpy?
Yeah, they were a little grumpy.
Jeez. All right. Just like you said, move on about Grumpy Cat. Let's move on.
Okay.
So, yeah, Dracula and Wolfman are trying to make legions of Draculas and Wolfmans.
Yeah. And they do. They succeed in their quest.
They do succeed.
Yeah.
And Wolfman's acting is hilarious. When he's Wolfman, he's just sort of swaying. I mentioned the yellow silk shirt, but we go back to Santo. He recognizes there is a threat, and he calls in his pal Blue Demon.
Uh-oh.
And then we get another full match of Blue Demon
Cool
wrestling. It's a good shade of blue.
Yeah. For whatever reason, Blue Demon's just more magnetic to me throughout the movie. I'm like, Santos like constantly walks around being like, yes, I am very intelligent, well-read, and wise as fuck. And then there's Blue Demon in the background going like, I'm going to punch someone.
Yeah, but also Blue Demon's like a better detective. And also like better. Like
was better. He's just better.
Was that a joke? Was that a running joke? When Blue Demon shows up, he doesn't have to go. He's like his Robin, but if Robin was like smarter than Batman, is what it felt like a little bit. Doesn't need to be braggadocious about it. She's like, well, what if we try this instead? And Santa's like, oh yes, what a great idea, Robin.
Well, I mean, like you guys said, these are both real wrestlers, right? So they probably have that like The Rock versus Vin Diesel syndrome, where they have to like figure out who wins the fight between them, and both of them have to take the same amount of damage. Or like Roger Rabbit, where Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny had the same amount of screen time and had to have the same amount of impact on the audience in order to get the rights for everything.
That's a good point, actually. Shawn Michaels and The Rock never wrestled each other during the Attitude Era because they couldn't figure out how they both go over.
Yeah, and I mean, famously now The Rock has like a clause in his contracts where it's like a no lose clause. Like I'm not allowed to lose because nobody wants to see me lose, or it'll affect my persona on my onstage.
I would love to see him lose. Hey, Rock, news for you.
I think he's slowly starting to realize that maybe he needs to lose at some point in order for him to like get knocked down so that he can climb back up again.
I don't know about that because at WrestleMania this year, he so the first night there he was in a tag team match which he won, and the night before that, he was at the Hall of Fame and he got inducted during Muhammad Ali's induction, and Muhammad Ali's one of like his daughter gave The Rock a belt, the People's Champion belt. Which The Rock then brought out at WrestleMania and then won a non-title match. So like he won a participation trophy and then won his match. I think The Rock is high on his own supply, like real bad.
I don't know. I mean, I think he's been this way for a while. This isn't a new thing. This is like since
he's the highest grossing actor in Hollywood at the moment, right?
Since he reached that pinnacle, he's been there. And I don't think anyone's knocked him down yet from it, but I think that he's gonna like the Black Adam stuff. He had way too much power with, right?
Yeah,
and that was an abysmal failure.
That movie blows.
I think that's going to, shift the winds of power. But only
just
time
real quick, the
will
problem with Black Adam is that movie's like watched it on TV at home, and I was the whole time I'm going, man, I wish I was watching this in a theater. But if I had seen it in theaters, I'd be like, man, I wish I didn't spend money on this movie to watch it in a theater. So you can't really have it both ways.
My reaction was, why am I watching this? I should turn this off.
The problem with Black Adam is that the movie constantly walks up to the line of, now this can be a good movie, and then it like gives a big middle finger and says, no, we're gonna do it our way. And it's like, no, like the whole plot conceit of like the Americans liberated us from a dictator, and then they fucked off, and all these criminals came in and took over the country. I'm like, that's interesting, tell me more about it. And the movie goes, but we don't want to tell you about that. Black Adam's here and he can speak English
and punch a whole bunch of rockets for like 15 minutes.
15 minutes of rocket.
I don't remember anything. My brain, when I'm watching stuff that I don't like, refuses to remember any of it. It just like,
that's the Fantastic Four movie for me. The 2014 Fantastic Four movie.
Or whatever.
And I can't remember a blessed thing about that film. My brain just went dump.
I remember like the body horror elements mostly when Professor or
should have been more body horror.
Pulled it. Well, it was supposed to be like real body horror, and the studio intervention. We have to churn out some garbage. High hopes for that MCU Fantastic Four. But yeah, another whole match here. Blue Demon. So they sort of subvert it where I was like, oh, they're just going to do that trope again where it's he wins and the other guy wins, and then he gets the third fall. Nope, he wins handily, beats him the 2 with a leg cradle right into the second fall. Blue Demon wins the 2. Blue Demon believes that something supernatural is happening and has a transmitter watch that he has from a previous adventure. And I wrote, haha, it's also sci-fi.
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
He's James Bond, remember?
Yeah.
He only wrestles for money. The rest of the time he's solving crimes and stopping international crises.
Yeah. They didn't really, for this next scene, they didn't really show what Wolfman's intentions were. So I was hoping they would do a little twisty on us, and when Wolfman is a good guy, or is a man, he's a good guy, and he doesn't want to turn back into Wolfman like they usually do. But in this, he's full fucking,
he's evil
sociopath nightmare person.
I love this.
I think he sent ninjas to attack. I think this is Laura Crisaldi, the like wife,
the blonde one.
They're all blonde.
No,
they're
daughter.
Literally.
No. She's the daughter, because he talks about her daughter being his granddaughter. The little one with the knife.
So this is like a lineage, but then also their housekeeper just looks like them.
No, I thought that was her cousin,
Josephina.
Yeah, they keep talking about her being the cousin.
Okay,
maybe she's dressed as a
she's just dressed as a housekeeper in one scene. And I was
maybe
like,
to you, why are you making your housekeeper dress like her? I don't understand that.
I don't know. It's a lot of blonde women who are very light skinned. That's why I was confused about the voice over acting. Like, why do they have a little bit of Spanish twang?
Because it's
set in Mexico.
Chief, play the song. Actually, don't play it. Do not play it. Okay, do not play it. If you want to know what song that is, go back and listen to our last couple of weeks of shows. Is Wolfman good when he's not a Wolfman or just sneaking in? Rufus Rex is Wolfman. He saves her and then takes her home. So he does. I thought this scene was really funny. This whole sequence is like crime boss guys, like mob guys come and like attack her. He thwarts them, obviously fake punching them. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but he punches a guy and the camera looks right at them and he fully misses. And I'm wondering if that was like just, actor fighting, or if that was like, he's not going to fight his own guys. Was that for us to be like, oh, Probably not.
I don't think so. I think
Might have
that
been
was
looking
just-
into it a little bit too much.
Yeah, I think that was just bad filmmaking.
I just love this whole conceit. Like you said before, that normally in a werewolf movie, the werewolf is the bad guy, and the human version is like, oh no, I'm
Or
so
like a
tortured
Dr.
by the
Jekyll and
dead.
Mr. Hyde, yeah.
Yeah, but in this movie, it's like, the Wolfman, he's evil, and here's his human form, Rufus Rex, who's also a bastard, and he's just standing around being like, I will seduce her for evil.
Well, in the
And
next-
that'll get me fucked and evil.
Oh fuck! And also, we'll fulfill our prophecy and plan. Rufus is mission accomplished. Goes back to his boy Dracula, and he's like, "Your turn." I like this dynamic through the movie where Rufus is like, "I did my thing," and Dracula's like, "Now I must do my thing." And then Dracula fucks up a bunch.
He's so bad at his job.
He's the boss.
He keeps showing up and being like, "Oh no, that knife, gross."
Yeah. Is that knife made of silver? Holy shit, I'm out of here. Gotta go.
Or
I
just
feel sick now.
distraction.
I'm nauseous. Yeah.
Distraction gets him twice. Where he's like,
Yeah.
he's just bite, man. All you gotta do is bite. He's like, whoo. Ooh.
I wouldn't like somebody sneaking up on me while I'm eating too. Like
Every time.
halfway through a burger.
Yeah. It's really hard for you to eat at restaurants. There's too many people walking around. You keep dropping food on the floor.
Uber Eats has been a savior for me, okay?
Yeah.
Dracula is pleased. Dracula goes after the little girl, but he gets spooked by the daggers you mentioned. That Professor Crisaldi left her. They go to check things out because he's just also making a racket. He like gets freaked out and starts like clanging pans apparently. And when he goes back, he's like, "Fine, you know what we'll do? Rex is the calm, smart voice of reason." He's like, "We'll just get her. We'll get Laura on the next full moon. Then you trick Laura into bringing Rosemary or Rosalita to the door of hell or whatever, the door of unknown souls or whatever the fuck." I want to know more about that door of unknown souls. We'll get to that in a minute. I
It's
wrote,
weird
"Lol, these are the famous wrestlers Santo and Blue Demon," as like a statement of like, what is this movie?
Yeah, they're the famous wrestlers, Santos and Blue Demon.
That's
That's how you do it every single time. They're not just Santos and Blue. They're the famous wrestlers, Santos and Blue Demon.
I did make a note that just says Linda Crisaldi because I kept forgetting her name. Beautiful woman. I thought she was great actor. She's a great like female empowerment character. She saves the day a couple times. I thought so anytime that this moment of Laura and Rufus kissing that I wrote down here was funny because it was what we were talking about at the start of the episode that you guys were mentioning about like these weird quick audio cuts of like the song will just play for a second. This one was like obvious. Their voice dub is like smoochy and then it's like saxophone and then just for like a minute and then it just cuts. And I made a note that said this movie is so bad yet so fun and good.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the whole thing with this movie is that it is so bad, but it is funny and good at times. You know, you got your fake bat. Love when the fake bat goes through.
Oh yeah, it's
the wings aren't flapping; it's just gliding in on strings.
Clearly on a string, like one string in the middle. Yeah. Blue Demon on a hunch follows Rufus back to his house. Okay, this whole part is so fucking laughably dumb. So Blue Demon follows Rufus. He gets to the house.
Mm-hmm.
He tries to climb up the house.
Yes.
Looks like a complete dunce cap because they don't like do any like cuts of him climbing. They just do a steady shot of him like trying with all his might to get his big giant muscles up onto like a beam.
This movie's painful to talk about. Okay, sorry, keep going. Keep going.
He gets up to the window. He gets the intel. Rufus sees Blue Demon Blue Demon sees Rufus,
Uh-huh.
and Blue Demon bolts. The rest of the movie, they treat it like they didn't see each other or something, right?
Maybe that scene was supposed to be in a different movie and they forgot. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, we put it in the wrong movie. That's
So we
fine.
call-
Nobody knows what the fuck's going on in this one anyway. So
Rufus Rex from episode 47, obviously, not
Yeah.
episode 36.
this
Well, he
is
calls
like
Sant.
when you're reading 2 issues of a Marvel series at the same time, and you miss out on one of the Iron Man issues that fills in the blank holes. You know,
Yeah, you're reading
there's
a
stuff
summer-
happening elsewhere that you need to watch 2 of the other Santo movies to know what's going on in this scene.
You're reading a summer like story arc.
Yeah.
Oh
that
yeah,
goes
like
across like 8 different books.
like when I first got into X-Men, I started reading Uncanny because I was like, oh yeah, Juggernaut's on the team. This is awesome. And there was Polaris hanging out, and I was like, who's this green-haired vampire girl that doesn't speak ever and isn't being used at all? It's like, man, this would make way more sense if I had other issues.
You're also what are even some other just X-Men, just mainline X-Men? That's a
Want me
good
to
call.
list them?
There's too
Yeah,
many.
I
There's
do.
too many.
I
do
I have a
list.
big X-Men. Forget Me Not, Rubbermaid, Jazz, Squid Boy, Rain Boy, Nature Girl.
No, I didn't mean name the X-Men.
But it sounded like you were asking.
You forgot the main ones. Rubber Boy?
Rubbermaid. Don't be
Oh.
ridiculous. Rubbermaid.
Rubbermaid.
You said Rain Boy.
Rain Boy.
Of course. You have Multiple Man. Jean Grey.
The
Cyclops.
maid. Why did you start with Multiple Man?
Yeah.
I don't know. Multiple Man was in that episode this week.
That's great.
We don't have to talk about that. That X-Men 97 is fucking
So fucking good. It's so fucking good. Like, holy shit. What are you guys doing? Oh, a genocide.
How many times have you listened to that Ace of Base song since last week? Because I've listened to it at least 30 times.
Happy
Oh,
Nation.
is there one in the show?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the wildest thing.
I haven't seen any of the new show yet.
Mild spoiler
Very
on that.
good.
Last week's episode of, I haven't seen this week's yet, but last week's episode wasn't just like a good X-Men story. It was just like good superhero
It's a good story, period.
stuff. Very MCU feeling is the new X-Men 97 stuff. Like it's got that like, this is for the people who know thing that the MCU does. Kevin Feige, he has some misses in the MCU, but a lot of really good like stuff I wanted to see as a kid. And X-Men 97 is on that level. So anyway, I made a note here that they just wear masks the whole time. So if
Yeah.
you don't know about lucha culture,
Yeah, of course they do.
any public appearance, a luchador will wear their mask, but they don't wear their mask 24/7 like at home and stuff. But this movie sort of enforces that notion that luchadors are always in their mask, which I think is great. But what I think is ridiculous is this like kind of superhero-y, kind of like action-y kind of movie. They're like in their street clothes.
Yeah,
with
he's wearing a
luchador
nice
masks on.
blazer.
But then they go wrestle.
I think it's so funny when they're like playing chess and stuff, or like playing cards.
They're
and, like,
erudite. They're worldly.
Just like
They're
the
not
vis-
just punching.
the visual of it is just so funny. Like 2 big, giant, muscly men in luchador masks and very nice clothes playing chess while they're using like the women as bait in the other room. It's great, and the card game as well. I mean, it's Nacho Libre does this gag as well, right? Whenever you see Ramsey, he's always wearing his luchador mask, even when he's at home. Even when he's like getting a massage, he's in the steam room, he's still got his mask on. He's being oiled up. It's funny. It's a funny trope, and I wish. I mean, I guess they probably did this with like Rey Mysterio and stuff in the North
the
America.
whole idea was supposed to be about the mystery of who this person is, right? That Santos and Blue Demon could be anyone. Like it could be your priest, it could be your uncle, it could be your cousin. I mean, granted, they're physically nothing like them, but you know, it's sort of an everyman mystery man kind of thing to it. Like that it would bring great that in order to protect his family, to protect his loved ones, he's got to wear the mask so we have no idea who he really is underneath there, right? And this kind of thing did allow a lot of people to moonlight as wrestlers. You know,
Right.
you put a mask on, like you could be just, you know, the pharmacist for a small town, but meanwhile on the weekends you're going out and bashing people's heads in dressed as, you know, El Diablo or whatever.
That's what I was saying at the top of the show, where I was like, you know, if you have a student wrestler who you need to go and who's promising, who you need to go and just take bumps and get pinned for the show, you can cover their face with a mask. And inversely, the thing about the luchador mask, it's a sacred like rite of passage to get the mask. And then if you lose a mask versus mask match, for instance, and you lose your mask, you're supposed to never be able to wear a luchador mask again. It brings great shame to you and your family, which has happened over the years. There's been a lot of luchadors who have lost their mask, and then their whole demeanor changes, their whole character changes. In fact, Rey Mysterio in WCW, Vince Russo had the great idea to have him lose his mask. And then he became possibly the worst wrestling character of all time, the horny devil or whatever. Remember that when he had the little devil horns and it was just his weird
regular
tiny
face. Yeah, where you're just like, you look like a 12-year-old. What's going on?
So what they had to do is when WCW was bought by WWE, they waited many years. Rey Mysterio went back to like the independents and sort of put the mask back on and started working. They brought him back, and he's never lost the mask since. That's why when you're watching a lucha mask and the Rudo, like the bad guy, is trying to rip the mask off the other guy, it's because if he manages to get that thing off and people see their face, they're never allowed to wear their mask. The shame is done. And that's the whole thing. That's why I think it's so funny that this movie pushes that so hard, that to the point that these two dudes, these muscle jocks,
all the time
are just playing chess with their masks on. I think that's so funny.
I mean, I assume that this is a gag that goes through all the movies, right?
It's got to be.
Well, but it's not a gag, though. It's just that's the truth of the match. That's the kayfabe.
What I mean is
lucha.
like the gag of them
that they wear the masks
everyday
no matter
things.
What.
Yeah,
like, they could be horseback riding or taking
or they
a
could be
bath
in the shower or something, like in the shower, like literally.
You
like
know, one of these
shower.
has a shower
or a bath, like anything. Yeah, like
or
where he's
going to the beach or something like that.
Exactly, somewhere where it would be. It is completely ridiculous, or like.
I'm sure they go to like a ball at one point, and they'll probably be like wearing tuxedos but still mask.
Yeah. Just something like super impractical where the mask would be way more of a hindrance to, and when they're like alone, you know, like, is there a scene where they're sleeping and they have the mask on still, like just like with like pajamas on and stuff, you know? There's a lot of gags you could do.
So the next sequence is Santo and Demon follow Eric to a warehouse. Laura sneaks into the car with them after Santo's like, you got to stay here. We're going to do something very dangerous. Eric leaves, and it turns out it's an ambush from the gangsters who they introduced earlier. And they're going to incinerate our heroes in a garbage fire machine, which is just an incinerator. And
a garbage fire machine.
I did a little bit of math here because I couldn't fit. They're like, what do you want me to put it to, boss? And he's like, 270 degrees. And I figured out that it had to have been Celsius because that would be like 400 and something Fahrenheit. Where if it was 270 Fahrenheit, it'd only be like 180 Celsius.
It would take a while for them to cook. Yeah,
but
270 is not very high. You could
but
survive.
That's why I was wondering, because
it's so warm in this box.
Yeah. or they're
the-
just
was it
enjoying
I'll
it. They're
take
like,
this mask
"Ah,
off."
yeah, this is
Was it
nice."
supposed to be a weird joke where they're like, we're gonna just kind of torture them with the fire and not actually murder them? That's why I did that quick maths. I also learned in Mexico when I was there a few weeks ago, they call it centigrade, but centigrade and Celsius are like the same thing apparently. So
Yeah.
that's a non-fact.
Well, more or less, they are actually two different scales. It's fucking weird. It's just like, of course, we need 70 different ways of measuring temperature.
Well,
Great
look at
mystery.
Canada and its metric imperial nightmare system.
Oh, of course.
You know, we have all sorts of different stuff. But yeah, Laura creates a distraction by knocking some boxes onto the goons, and we get like a fight scene, and it's pretty bad. That's what I took away from that, because the gangsters use the punches, the wrestlers try to use like wrestling moves and wrestling like double axe handle slams and like chest slaps, like, you know what I mean, like Ric Flair slaps and like splashes. You know, like at one point, I think Blue Demon like goes to the second rope or the third rope basically and does a splash, which I thought was
He
ridiculous.
climbs up on some boxes or crates and
and like wrestling, they do use like wrestling stomps while they're, you know, like the kayfabe stomps. But the gangsters are just like throwing haymakers, like real
they're not
punches.
trained.
Yeah. They're trained by the streets.
The streets over
There's no ropes in the streets.
I was trained by the streets. Anyway, we had a phone call between Rufus and Eric. It's pretty funny. It's like the most overacted shit.
Just that Rufus knows how to use a phone.
Yeah.
Like, he's been dead for a couple hundred years apparently, but phone, easy.
Or
So-
was he? Was he in the last movie, or who knows?
There's a good chance this is not his first rodeo.
It's not a great look. I wrote good cheese for all this. The overacting and calling them idiots like was pretty funny, you know. And this is when I noticed, like, there's a scene where Blue Demon and Rufus are in the same room, but they don't know each other. So, like, do they not know that each other saw each other during that exchange from before? Maybe that's the explain away for that bit. But they saw each
masked
other.
man? It could be a totally different masked man
Could be
who
any-
snuck into my window.
There's a lot of masked men in this world. Because, like, there's the Blanco guy from the fight with Santo at the beginning, and then at the end of the tag match, like, just another random luchador.
Listen, I'm gonna say what we're all thinking. All these masked men, they just look the same.
Oh my god.
I listen, I say the shit that no one else is willing to say. All right. Cancel me all you want. Don't cancel me. Netflix
They
will
don't
give
know.
me
One has
3
a blue
TV
mask and
specials.
one has a silver mask.
That's
I don't
true.
see color.
He's a Republican.
You might be colorblind, man. Like, you might want to go to like an eye doctor or like any doctor. Really, I think you might want to see a doctor. No, but they do get tricked by the trap. They see Crystal. Oh, they go to a new trap. They go to the next trap,
There's
which
so
is
many
like
traps.
a mansion. They see Crisaldi in the window. This is when, like, Santo is actually the smart one in this one, where he's like, we should not both go in there in case it is a trap. You hang out here by the car. I'm gonna go rushing in and just interact with anybody I see. And then he immediately sees zombie Crisaldi, which, you know what? Sideload me a new monster movie. It's zombies now. We got zombies. He's met by like Dracula with 2 concubines who are wearing those like red veils,
Yeah.
which are like also zombies, I think.
I think they were supposed to be
No,
vampires.
they've
Yeah.
got the teeth. Like, all the vampires have like the
shitty teeth. Yeah.
yeah
The goofy.
unhideable, like there's just
hard
like
to
talk.
4 inches of tooth hanging out in front of my head.
Even like really good vampire movies in the 70s didn't have good vampire teeth. Like they still look kind of goofy for the most part.
If you watch
Yeah.
The Lost Boys, they actually have a
That's not from the 70s.
No, I know that's the 80s. My point is struggling with vampire teeth is not, it never really went away until CGI.
Yeah, even True Blood, the teeth look goofy.
Yeah.
They always
Is that show worth watching?
True
for
Blood?
the first
I don't know.
while,
It's been a long
yes.
time, man.
And then once they introduce fairies into it, all of a sudden it's like, oh no, this got weird.
Okay.
I believe I watched all of it, but I also remember being like, why is it the Matrix now? Like when they're yeah.
Because I'm about to finish Deadwood and I'm trying to decide what to do next. I might do The Strain.
Oh, you know what's really good? Evil. If you haven't seen Evil.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Because it's the best way to describe it is like it's like the X-Files, but for Catholicism. So they're a team that goes around like investigating miracles and possessions to see like, oh, is this a real possession, so that we don't have to send an actual exorcist out. And what ends up happening is they'll usually find like mundane explanations for things, but meanwhile, like actual supernatural evil shit's happening in the background too. But it really blends these fun levels of like the show can be terrifying and disgusting, like great practical effects and special effects, but it also airs on the side of goofy when it needs to. Like the big bad guy goes to see his therapist, and his therapist is an 8-foot tall goat demon who sits him down and says, so last week we were talking about your mother. And it's just like, yeah, okay, great. You know, therapist goat demon man.
That seems fun.
But there's also all these yeah, you get these scenes of like the main character being tortured by a demon at night, and like she's having her fingers chopped off one by one. It's like, whoa. And then Andrea Martin comes into the show, and she's a nun who can see demons, and she kills like 6 in a row with a shovel. It's great.
Sweet. Yeah, I'll definitely I'll look into that after this, because I like the macabre. Speaking of the macabre, can you guys explain to me what happened with the full moon scene? Because I didn't really.
No.
Like I know they mentioned like, oh, on the next full moon and stuff. So apparently either this movie takes place over the course of just 2 days, or it takes place over the course of a month.
That's what I was thinking, because he definitely goes werewolf and then isn't werewolf, and then they have a bunch of werewolf crew, and then there's this scene during this where you just shows like a white circle, and you just hear a bunch of noises, and what I thought was happening there was Wolfman going into feral mode, and didn't really explain anything. It just cuts to the police. The police commissioner guy comes in, who doesn't have an accent and also refers to the mob boss as the mob boss, and I was like, well, if you know that he's the mob boss, why don't you arrest him for fucking racketeering or
stuff?
Yeah, racketeering. And then I just wrote down on a Word document, this is so weird.
That was the first time you wrote that? Holy
no, it's not. Sometimes I wrote, this is weird and cool, but this time I was like, I don't know.
Now I do get the impression from the version that we saw that this may be like a redubbed version. That, I mean, they probably dubbed it way back in the 70s to take to an English market, or in the 80s, but the quality of audio for it may be a redub. So there's a good chance that like the movie is just naturally missing parts to it, just due to being like,
just try to like make it
that
make sense.
Like we're gonna shove a scene in here, and how do we make this make sense? We'll have the police commissioner say that he arrested everyone. Great, good. That'll stitch it together, right? No questions asked. Stop asking questions.
It is like very janky at times too, where there'll just be silence and someone's flapping their gums and nothing. There's no one talking, and you're like, okay. And then another person will start talking. And you're like, where's that person? It cuts to them off screen. You're like, okay.
It's also possible that the version that you watch, Steve, is different than the version we watch.
It is very possible, because I have the one that is no longer exists apparently. So yeah, I don't know, but it seems like it made just as much sense to you guys as it did to me, which is not a lot.
Yeah,
not a lot of sense.
And also, I think I got more out of it when the three of us were kind of talking to each other about doing this movie, and we were sending the video around to each other and just watching little bits and pieces. I think I got more out of it then, as like a novelty than having to actually sit down and like try to make sense of it in a format that's
Well,
you
like a
know,
lot of the movies we do on this show, it probably would have been more enjoyable to watch with a group rather than sitting
yeah.
by yourself trying to.
This movie is what I would generally classify as like a good background party movie. You know, when you're
Yeah.
having just like a house party, oh, I'll put something on, and you would pop something like this on so that people can sort of sit down and go, oh, cool, fun, haha, and then oh, what's that? You work in textiles. Tell me more about that. Oh, whoa, hold on. Santos is about to punch Dracula in the face.
Which never happens, which I'm frustrated about. But this is one of like Toronto has a lot of bars that just have movies on a screen at them, and this I'm sure that this is played on a screen in a Toronto bar,
Wouldn't be
in that
surprised.
same context with no
Or,
sound.
you know, any of these Santos movies could be.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, I'm going to open up a new bar that
Yes.
just plays Santos movies with no sound.
Uh-huh. Sounds dope.
And that's the gimmick.
Yeah, you could call it. You could have a custom drink called the Blue Demon. And
Yeah.
it's just 5 ounces of blue curacao.
Oh,
Enjoy.
Somehow a bestseller with the college kids, but don't
Yeah.
buy that. It's $19.
They keep paying for it. You're not
Yeah.
going to say no.
Yeah, it's the Blue Demon. There's blue puke all over everything.
Oh
It's
my
awful.
god. Another person went into a sugar-induced coma. Right in the bar last night.
We got to check to see if they're check their glucose levels before you give this to them because they might be a diabetic.
Insulin
Dracula
pops keep shutting you down.
Yeah. that shitty commissioner comes in and he just
Goddamn insulin inspector.
yeah.
SVU Insulin Edition. Dun dun. Truly
Dun,
famous
dun.
sugar crimes.
No, what I saw was I saw a guy drink a 19-ounce blue curacao and he keeled over. All right, I guess this is a job for
No,
the
they
Blue
look at
Man
it's a
Group.
corpse in an alley. They open the mouth, and the gums and the tongue are just pure blue. God damn.
God damn it. 5th
Blue
one this
curacao.
week.
Yeah.
Well,
Never gets easier.
That's the hey, did you see this one backdoor pilot for special Blue Man's unit?
The Blue Man Group.
The Blue Man Group. Dracula gets to Lena, but Santos intervenes, and this is one of those moments where he just, distracts him. One of the minion vampires does get Josephina, and I thought that this was going to be another like, oh, she's not going to get bit, but she does get bit. This is where I thought she was a housekeeper. Maybe she's not. Lena does almost catch them. When she walks in and opens the windows. Somebody should have warned her that don't open the windows during any sort of supernatural incident.
Yeah.
And
Don't you know Dracula can turn into mist and a bat? So many options he has now.
But we do see the bat, and it's a Party City bat. The wings don't even flap; it just kind of flies out the window on a string. The Dracula just this drove me nuts because Dracula just tries again and succeeds while the boys are playing chess.
Yeah, why not?
2 minutes later, he just does the same shit again.
Yeah.
And gets her and has her go out to the garden or whatever. The gardener and Blue Demon. Well, earlier in the movie, I skipped over it. I forgot to take a note, but when he tries to like mind trick her, she walks out into the garden and Santos is like, go back to your room, woman, get in your cage. And then it just happens again. But this time she walks out. Santo is like, I'm going to go to the study and study vampires or whatever. Exactly. And they don't finish their game, which I don't know why that drove me so nuts. But it's like, did he checkmate him or did he not checkmate him? But Blue Demon follows Lena out into the yard. They go off into the woods. The gardener gets knocked out. He gets up. Santos is in tow. They all go into the woods. The abandoned house in the woods is like the final showdown area. When Santos comes out of the study and just everybody's gone. Lena's gone. Rosalina is possessed, like taken. Josephina's possessed and gone. Demon gets captured and chained up. Lena's in the woods. Rosalina's in the house, just kind of around. Laura's released from the hell room. Did you guys clock what this room was actually called? Because it had some like ridiculous name, like the room of undying souls that never get to go to hell or heaven. But when the door opens, it's clearly just hell. She's also a zombie. Rosalina is like wandering around the house at one point. She opens a door and finds the Crisaldi demon. He wanders off. This is what I'm saying. Like, people just kind of like walk around in this movie at times.
Yeah,
like it's bad storytelling.
It's not the most interesting or exciting.
No,
there are good moments in this movie, but the stuff you're listing right now is not
It's
any
just
of it.
like
just things that are happening. We're hitting the end of this movie real quick. Eric brings the news that Santos is there and off camera is killing werewolves, which I was like, just show him battling werewolves.
Show Santos like ripping a werewolf's head off.
Yes,
Even
like
just a stupid bad head, like I would be fine with it. Anything, like it can be just as campy as everything else in this movie, and it would be
because
fine.
Santos wears a silver mask. He can kill them. Silver. You can't send Blue Demon out to try and kill a werewolf.
Blue Demon's just drinking blue curacao shots the whole time. Wasted.
Yeah.
So yeah, like just going into this movie, there's that scene where like Laura's trying to take Rosalina to the hell room. She drops her dolly. The zombie woman like staggers back into the hell room and the door closes behind her. Rosalina's just like, oh, I'm in a hell pit of my own. I'm alone in this cave, which I thought was like, what is this trying to convey? It's not trying to convey anything. It's just things are happening. Then there's Eric gassing Santos. He binds Santo. He gets the dagger off Santo, and then he fucking kills himself with it.
I fucking loved this because the dagger's magic. It's always been like kind of swiveling around. They can point towards evil because it's like an evil seeking dagger or whatever. And so when he has it like pointed at Santos. He's like, I'm going to stab you. And then you just get this close-up shot of his hand and the dagger flips around and then flies into his stomach. And the last thing he says, he doesn't go like, or anything. He goes, I committed so many crimes. I stopped being human.
I've become a monster.
And I lost it. It was so funny. Yes, you're no longer human. Therefore, you should die.
So not only is it like
the dagger is a more effective monster hunter than any actual monster hunter in this movie.
It's not just a dumb MacGuffin, it's also the fucking lasso of truth from Wonder Woman. Basically. Makes you admit all your
truths. I see what you're saying. I didn't understand what you meant there for a second.
Yeah.
I think that was to be an epiphany on his part, where he's like, oh, why is it stabbing me? Oh, it's because I'm a monster now, because I committed so many crimes.
Children, that's why you shouldn't commit crimes, because you'll
Looks
end up
right
like
at the camera.
Hunchbacked and deformed of the face and tanned only on the... Did he become Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Is that what happened there?
This is Donald Trump's origin story.
That's why he's a monster.
So, for absolutely no reason now, the Wolfman tase each other when they're becoming Wolfman. And this one Wolfman, I guess all the other guys did it and succeeded, because this one Wolfman has to cross a plank across a pit of spikes, while Rufus Rex is on the other end of the plank, just like fucking with it to try to knock him off. He, of course, fails. I wanted to see somebody get impaled.
No,
didn't happen.
No, he just falls. See it happen. You go like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no, well, he's gone. Blue Demon is just tied up watching all of this during it.
Why don't they just turn Blue Demon into a werewolf or a vampire or something?
Right?
Yeah, like he's right there. Why wouldn't you have like, one of the most powerful and famous wrestlers in the world? Just go like, cool, you're one of us now, bud. Enjoy.
Maybe they were worried that he would still be good, and then he would just be stronger because he would be a werewolf luchador. Because maybe they were already evil when they turned into werewolves, so they maintained their evilness. Whereas if he turned, he would be a good werewolf.
Yeah, don't want to create a good, powerful werewolf then.
Yeah, that's just shooting yourself in the foot. Because then
you morality werewolf,
like they did in Van Helsing, where they turned Van Helsing into a werewolf.
Yes, exactly like Van Helsing.
Yeah, finally, me having seen Van Helsing twice
Yeah.
comes in handy.
I wondered when me watching that movie once a year would pay off. This is the moment.
Finally, I've decrypted all your clues, Mr. Santos.
Luckily, they have another ham-fisted battle with the Wolfman goons. Lena Lena's like tries to get to Blue Demon and Santos by crossing the pit on the plank, which I'm
Also, that plank does not look like it'd be that hard to get across. It's real wide.
Yeah,
it's
but
true,
those
but if somebody's
handles on
yeah,
it,
if
and
somebody's
they're
shaking
fucking
it.
with it.
The wobbly handles, yeah.
So nobody was fucking it with when she came over. So it's
True.
fine, of course.
I also
Right?
posit that the reason why Blue Demon was able to get across the plank is because two inferior wolfmen were shaking it.
Yeah, they're not as muscular as he is.
Rufus Rex was able to do it because he's the supreme leader of the Wolfmen. Ugh.
But I mean,
sentences are new sentences.
How funny would it have been if Lena's walking across and Santos is just like, all right, and now testing you.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this? Just making sure.
Yeah. Oh, Rosita. Lena just shows up out of nowhere as she's wont to do.
Yeah.
Gets Rosita. I call her Rosalina this whole time. I don't fucking care. Takes her out. The transition of Wolfman getting impaled is funny. Santos faces off against Wolfman. They're battling it out. Dracula. Oh yeah, and then Dracula comes over, and then
he just sort of watches.
From across the pit.
He's like
Blue
a fight
Demon.
cuck.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
The first rule of Fight Cuck is don't talk about Fight Cuck.
I think Fight Cuck would be a better movie than this, actually.
Oh, he's really beating up the Wolfman. I wish I could beat up the Wolfman.
No, I'm beating myself up.
All right. Perfect.
Okay. Anyway, I want to say before we just finish this out here and get to our final thoughts, there is a bit of an ending to this movie. Did you guys feel a palpable like turn in this movie where you were like having a good time and then suddenly you weren't? Because I did, and it was about when we got to about the last 20 minutes, and I turned off the movie to come home, like to commute home and finish it. I was dreading finishing it the whole time. Like it was fun. The conceit of the movie is like a fun premise, but when you're actually in it, it has diminishing returns almost every 5 minutes as the movie runs.
I was high as balls, so honestly, like I was just sitting there
You're
going,
like, this rules, man.
No. My brain was just going, you don't need that dump. You don't need that dump. And then when you mentioned the pit, all of a sudden my brain was like, oh wait, I remember those. You enjoyed these guys getting impaled, right? And I was like, yeah,
right.
Yeah, I think that the entirety of the fight sequence at the end becomes pretty taxing, except for the part when he keeps throwing spears into people. I was like, okay, I hope that this goes on way more. I want him to keep.
And they just kind of like poof into smoke, but not like
they fall over and then
they fall over and then it's just
It's not even like it cuts back to him and then over to them and there's smoke. It's like just within the frame, it snap cuts to them. Just now there's a stick in the ground with a bunch of goo and smoke there. Yeah.
And
the point that it was almost confusing. I was like, what just is that them? Oh, that's them. Okay, that's supposed to be them.
The final boss battle sort of outlines this perfectly because it literally just Blue Demon throws that like hook across, like a hook on a rope, and Santo just
it really makes no sense to be in this cave. I was like, why is there like
what's it hooked onto?
Yeah. Why is this here?
But he just double kicks them into the pit. He doesn't punch Dracula.
Anticlimactic thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yes. He doesn't punch Dracula a single time in this whole movie. I'm going, is he gonna fucking face off in a fist fight against Dracula? Because that's gonna be tight as shit.
It's crazy that they're both there and they're both like slowly walking towards him, and then he just double kicks. They're both dead.
Yeah, that's that.
What did Dracula even do in this film?
He got scared by a dagger. He got shocked a couple times. He turned into a bat one time. He raised
and then he died. Rufus Rex, whatever his fucking name is, much more efficient at being
efficient. That might have been sort of the the mission to like make Dracula seem like the buffoon and have a this is like Santos and Blue Demon versus the Wolf Man.
I thought that
More
it was
so.
supposed to be like Dracula is like he's supposed to be the ultimate boss, so it would make sense for him to do absolutely nothing the entire movie and then have some sort of
Like
Some sort of
very
final battle.
moment at the end. But
oh, it turns out I can just like summon vampires and they're all gonna
yeah,
fuck
or
you
like
up,
use
Santos.
telekinesis or something, or he
Yeah, and
turns
instead it was just like, Blue, I'm walking towards you. Oh no, a pit. I'm
And also, like,
dead.
one of Dracula's most famous abilities is that he can also turn into a giant wolf. So him turning into like a more monstrous wolf
a
man
second wolf.
would have been cool. But no.
Nope. They kind of just they don't even high five, but they basically high five each other and then have a tag match with the two other wrestlers from earlier. And that just kind of goes on for 5 minutes. And then there was no credits in the version.
The credits
I
are at the
watched.
beginning.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Which was
In a lot of old movies, the credits are at
Yeah.
the beginning. Yeah.
So
That's
there's
why
no
the
MPAA.
trailers would actually come at the end, which is why they were called trailers.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Fuck,
No, that's it.
just
That's,
fucking blew my mind. I did know that. I did know that. And I
did
did
you? You just saying that to be cool with me?
no.
Okay.
No.
Did I write anything else here? I didn't even really write a final thought, but we'll get to that. Is there anything else about this movie, guys, we didn't talk about or mention? We're gonna have an early night tonight, boys.
It's kind of nice that like at the end the announcers are like, they've done it, evil has been defeated once again, but he's just talking about two shitty wrestlers and not the actual monster.
Can you give me a theory corner, Sting? I got a little theory for you. Just real quick. Check this out. What if during this tag match, Santo was just imagining all of this?
You mean
Because he really likes
the whole thing?
this all just happens in his head during that tag match at the end. It's just 3 matches is the reality. And during the last match, he's like, these guys are really coming on to us like a Dracula and a Wolfman, and then
No. I would say no, that's not possible. Because I mean you've both seen Total Recall.
of course.
Yeah.
Right. So the whole thing, everybody's always debating, like, was it a dream or was it real? And the thing is, like, there are sections of that movie that Arnold Schwarzenegger's not in. Why would you dream like Michael Ironside yelling at people like without you being there?
Because it's a really entertaining dream.
Well, okay, it's Michael Ironside yelling at people.
Yeah.
Yes. But same thing here. It can't be a dream because like he had full on he imagined Dr. Cristaldi walking around doing his Mr. Rogers bit. Oh, wouldn't it be nice if a professor took his shoes off, changed his cardigan?
It would make this dream more entertaining.
Santos's very, very mediocre daydreams. I wonder what he's wearing now. Oh, a different cardigan.
All right, Jason, the theory corner is fucking trounced.
I don't know. I would say that my dreams don't always involve me. Sometimes I dream about
That's true.
that has absolutely nothing to do with me. So
How about we talk about the Home Alone of it all?
the what?
The Home Alone of it all.
What do you think the Home Alone of it all?
the Home Alone of it all?
Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone?
I really gotta know.
When is the Home Alone of it all?
What is the Home Alone of it all?
Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
It's very simple. The Home Alone of it all is the idea that in the movie Home Alone, you're there to see Kevin McAllister booby trap that house. Okay.
Yeah.
Most movies have sort of that similar thing where there's the bit at the beginning where you just get to the part that the trailer shows a lot of the time. That's where Steve's part of this like theory comes in. It could be the trailer, could be like the part that you came to see, could be literally the third act sometimes. It's like the Home Alone of it all. With that explained, Sam, what's your Home Alone of it all?
I mean, it would have been these two guys fighting Dracula and the Wolfman, but they don't even do that because, they just drop kick him into a pit of spikes at the end.
What a waste.
It's I was half expecting in that pit of spikes for them to be like Dracula to be like, you think spikes would stop me? And it
Yes.
turn into mist and come up and be like, haha, now you, and then the dagger.
But you look at the runtime and there's 3 minutes left.
And you're like, oh, I guess the dagger doesn't matter. Like, it's a magic dagger that kills Eric.
It's an anti-Eric dagger.
Yeah. That's why you gave it. It's like, a pervert will show up and try to attack my granddaughter. Here you go, honey. Take this anti-Eric device.
This dagger has been in our family for hundreds of years. It kills perverts immediately and instantly. Also, it will seek them out. You don't have to do anything. You just have to hand it to a perv. It'll take care of the rest.
It'll take care of the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's pretty good. What about you, Steve? What's your Home Alone of it all for?
I mean, the Home Alone for me is when he resurrects Dracula and you see his plaid inlay to his cloak. And I was like, oh, I've never seen Dracula with plaid before. This is kind of good. And I was really hoping we would get Dracula in a bunch of outfit change, like wardrobe changes or something, but didn't happen. And I like that. I thought, I don't know. I didn't know what I was expecting for Dracula and the Wolfman teaming up. I thought there was going to be more of like a story to that, some sort of plot thread of like Dracula is resurrected and then he seeks out the Wolfman. Like, I've heard whispers of a wolfed man that runs through the woods at night. And like he goes and finds a Wolfman to recruit. But no, they're just friends already, I guess. Really good friends. And they were roommates.
Hey, erasure.
Yeah, exactly. Gay erasure in Hollywood or whatever the Mexican equivalent of Hollywood is. I don't know what it's called.
Mexico would, of course.
Oh, of course. Yeah, it would be the resurrection, but at the same time, that's because I had to pick one because there isn't really one for me.
I'm with Sam in a lot of ways. Like I guess I wanted to see the interaction between two luchadors and two famous Hollywood monsters. Obviously disappointing, but I don't think this movie, it might be a movie that like doesn't have a Home Alone at all because we didn't, good luck finding a trailer for this, like a legitimate trailer of the era, if they even bothered to make trailers for these, like, I don't know. I really just wanted to see
the newspaper.
I really just wanted to see Santo punch Dracula in the face, and it never happened.
I guess settled for Dracula punching Santo in the face.
Right?
Either or.
I guess with that, we'll go to our final thoughts, and then we'll fucking talk about some...
No MPAA, I guess, huh?
No MPAA. Sorry, Sam. We'll get you next time.
MPAA
game is a game we play. It's very dumb, but it's a crowd favorite. But nobody was really around.
You know what we should have done for the game is guess which one of these in the series of movies it was.
Hindsight's 2020 on that. Yeah.
It's time for our final thoughts.
Just like at the beginning, the guest goes first. Just to give you some parameters, if you want, just a brief summation. If you want to give it a rating out of 5 or out of 10 or a joke rating, whatever you want, just sort of give your final thought, Sam.
So I'm going to go with how we do it on the show. Is it camp?
Perfect.
This movie is camp. It definitely is camp. It's unintentional camp. I don't think Santos and Blue Demon are sitting down being like, you know what'd be really fun if we fought Dracula and a Wolfman, but didn't actually fight them at any point, right? It's it's schlocky, it's cheesy, it's got some cool like blood effect when they kill that one dude, but then all the rest of the other effects are Party City. Look, I got a smoke machine, guys. Look, awesome smoke machine. Let's use it.
I have a smoke machine.
Oh no, he's been stabbed.
Noise. Yeah,
smoke is coming.
But it's definitely a very camp movie. I would absolutely say that this is not a hard recommend, like in terms of like go out see this thing. It's like you want to spend some dumb fun and not have to use brain hard, this is probably right up that alley.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I give it
Perfect.
4 potential face punches out of 5 potential face punches.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam.
The thing has a delay, Jason. I don't know what you want from me, all right?
No, we got to fix that. We got to fix that. Steve, what are your final thoughts for the movie? I'm not saying all that. Blue Demon versus Dracula.
This movie was, I don't know, it was fine watching it. I found it actually more difficult to talk about it than I did watching it. Just because every time we started talking about something, I was like, there's nothing in this scene that I want to talk about really. But there's lots of funny bits where I was giggling to myself, like when that lady shoves that child over, and I was like, oh, that's rough. I really like all of the stuff where they're in their mask in impractical situations that really doesn't call for them to wear a mask. I kind of wish there was more of that, but who knows? There's fucking 55 movies, so they probably do a lot of it in the other movies as well. I don't know if I can recommend it to everyone, but I can definitely recommend it to somebody who enjoys things that are of this era that are, you know, nonsensical, not necessarily hinged in terms of like worrying about plot or plot hooks. They just kind of like push things along and they're like, we're going to have a couple things happen. And then eventually, like everybody came here for, they'll all meet up in a cave and Dracula and the Werewolf Man will be defeated. That's what's going to happen. And it does happen. So, you know, you're not left hanging at the end and evil is defeated once again. If I had to give this a rating, I would give this 1 non-unmasked luchador. I really wanted the mask to come off, but it didn't happen. There was something more that no, not necessarily in the fact that I want to bring great shame, just in the fact that I felt like there's something hiding in this movie that I didn't get to see, and I really wish that I got to see it.
Okay.
That's good. That's good. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Steve.
There you go,
Steve.
Oh, thanks, me.
Dong. There we go. It's real simple. My final thought is this. I had high expectations going into this, and this movie managed to thwart every expectation I had. As far as that goes, like I had a good time watching it, but I think I kind of accidentally told you guys my final thought when I said it just every time that I thought something cool was going to happen, it got like it didn't. And as the movie went on, almost in 5-minute increments after about an hour, I was like, and I really I wanted that final fight scene to have some more meat to it, but Dracula never gets punched in the face. I give this movie a 2 out of 5, and I also give this movie a punch to Dracula's face.
Finally, somebody's punching at Dracula.
Somebody had to do it. Perfect. So with that, we're going to get out of here in a second. This is the plug section of the show. Sam, why don't you tell us about yourself and what you'd like to plug?
Well, hi there. My name's Sam, and I'd love to plug you sometime. Single, cute gay boys out there. No. I do a podcast as well. It's called Is It Camp? You can find it pretty much wherever you find podcasts. And yeah, like I said, the whole purpose of it is we're not there to be like the definitive experts on anything, but we're going to talk about like this often overlooked and frankly queer subgenre of media, right? We generally do movies, but every once in a while we venture into like TV, books, you know, other things as well. You know, just try weird things out. We like a theme. We do theme months, and it's real silly goofums times. Like we just did a 2.5 hour episode on the last Dungeons and Dragons movie that came out. We had so much fun doing that because that movie's dope. It's a great movie.
Yeah,
That's good.
Thember showed. He's a big chunky boy. He's so fat, that dragon. And then you can find me online at my new handle. I changed my handle this week for my wrestling because I wrestle with Superkicked. Well, and you can find me at Slam Campbell. Campbell spelt the Scottish way. And yeah,
Great.
that's kind of it. And then I work on TV shows. So I don't know, watch the new season of What We Do in the Shadows.
Which everybody will, the final season.
Yeah.
Very excited for that. Thank you for coming on, Sam. We're gonna have you and Jacob last week. I owe you a good episode. I know that we have a good rapport. We managed to we squeezed a rock, the juice of a rock. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but we got some good stuff in this episode.
Delicious rock juice.
Well, the 2.5 hours you guys talked about the recent D&D movie was probably a little bit more palatable. I think that we got some good stuff out of this, so I appreciate your time. You can find us on all social media, of course, as I mentioned at the top of the show. We are, of course, called Hey Did You See This One? And that is our handle pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts. And the main social medias we use are Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. Those are kind of the 4 big ones. We stopped using all of the like the Twitters and X's of the world because they suck. It's too hard to get traction. In addition to that, I have to do a little bit of a rigmarole because we are a part of the United Federation of Podcasts, and you can catch all of our shows across the internet as well. I'm going to run them down very quickly. There is, of course, Graphic Histories, which is a graphic novel comic book podcast. There's Trivial Debates. I think, Sam, I want to recommend you to be on this. I'm going to put in a little word with my guys, but this is essentially there's 3 people doing debates over a subject. I was on an episode for The Office, and I was on another episode for something else. It's escaping me. I'm trying to get through this fast. Steve is coming up on an episode for Avatar: The Last Airbender, and basically you sort of debate your opinions, and there's another person who sort of is the almighty gatekeeper. It's a fun show to watch. Go check it out. I really enjoy that concept. X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show, which is hitting on all cylinders right now. Typically, they were doing the old X-Men show. They had a little bit of a lull and did some movies. Now they're doing X-Men 97, which is great. There's the Live Long and Podcast show, which is a Star Trek podcast. Hold up! A movie podcast is kind of our sister podcast, but they do 3 movies in 2 hours, where we do 1 movie in like 4 to 7 hours. Amon on Track. I was corrected recently. It's a music podcast. I would like to go on it. And of course, Hey Did You See This One? The show you're watching right now. And I think that's everything. So outro. Oh shit.
Hell yeah.
Big Man Vader. Outro, and then thanks for watching, and then United Federation of Podcasts Sting, and we'll get out of here. So
what you're telling me to do? Are you telling me to end the show?
Thank you, Sam. We'll have you back real soon. Let's bye.
Oh no, it's that guy again.
It's old leather skin
guy.
Oh my!
It's old leather skin Rick.
This guy. We asked him to leave, and he just keeps on showing up. We say, "Get out of here," and he says,
He aged into a fine handbag.
"A fine ham bag."